on into a new episode of Oh So Curious Times DCU Daily. We have a lot to talk about as always. Today we have news from Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. Matt Damon, of course, we're getting a first look at what Matt Damon's going to look like in the movie, who he is playing. We'll talk about that, of course. The G20 trailer came out a couple of days ago, and I know we weren't live on Friday, so we've got a little bit of making up to do, so we're going to talk about that trailer, of course. And then Spider-Man 4 news, Daredevil Born Again news, so a bit of a Marvel flavor to the show. Quick hits, lots of quick hits today, as always. It's a Monday. And then we get into all the DC news, of course. The DC news is full of little tidbits, as well as, of course, Brendan Sklenar saying that Batman would be a dream role. Does James gonna agree? I don't know. We'll talk about that as well. We are reviewing Captain America 4 Brave New World. I've got a lot to say about that movie. I saw that on Friday. And John saw Paddington in Peru. So we both made some choices, and we will be talking about both of those movies on the show today. And then we'll be looking ahead to The Monkey, which comes out later this week. So that's a horror movie that John is excited about. Do that and so much more, of course. As always, let's get that show started, shall we? All right. Okay. It's time to talk about as we always do, we start off the show with the news. So I'm going to bring on in John. How are you doing today? You are so muted right now.
I'm so muted right now. Oh my goodness. Your long weekend, so I need to get back into things. But I didn't expect the solo layout. You usually do the other layout and then you boot it. Anyway. I'm good.
That's true. I threw you off a little bit.
You do this and then you do solo. I'm like,
I know.
This is different. Why are we doing this? Anyway, I'm good. Let's get into the news.
Right. Well, as we always do, we're going to hit that news intro and then we're going to dive into what is it's Monday. On Mondays, we're full of news and today's no different. So let's get into the news. But as always, let's hit that intro and then we'll dive into all of the topics.
It doesn't seem to matter what I do. Number 2.
All right, mister, I need to paint my abs on to get nominated. You don't see Robert Downey doing that.
You're kidding.
You're
kidding. I can't open the envelope without the...
Warner Brothers is heading back into the Matrix with a new movie in the works.
Wonder what other surprises are in store.
I want to be Bruce Wayne.
I like that. And you're gonna love me.
There's the shot right there. That.
Okay, we don't need to see Corenswet.
Right there.
You look ridiculous.
Well, not no more, he don't.
What, dude? I can barely understand you. Your accent's insane.
What the needs now?
Give me a hand up. Nope, I'm actually okay. Thank you very much. Oh, wow. Wow.
All right. Well, let's dive into the news. Okay. So the first thing on today's news, the BAFTAs. I mean, they weren't the only awards that happened this weekend, but BAFTAs were the biggest. They also were the last big stop on the road to the Oscars. So of course we had the BAFTAs happen this weekend rather. And there was a lot of big winners from the award show. So as it says here, Conclave won Best Film, The Brutalist won Best Director and Best Actor. So, but the two movies taking home 4 big awards apiece. Then, of course, in the other big categories, we had Mikey Madison winning for Best Actress. Zoe Saldana won Best Supporting Actress. Kieran Culkin won Best Supporting Actor for A Real Pain, which was a great movie as well. David Tennant, of course, was hosting the show. Usually people think or look towards the BAFTAs as another predictor for, which movie has the momentum at the Oscars. John, does this tell you a little bit more about, where things are headed? Because obviously it's the BAFTAs, the British Academy, so there's a bit of a bias to it, right? Which is, it's natural, it's understandable, but nonetheless, a movie like The Brutalist, You have Mikey Madison winning for Honora. Zoe Saldana, despite all the controversy, around her movie, is still coming out on top. So do you feel like, that will translate to success for like Emilia Perez or Real Pain or like, Conclave at the Oscars? Or is this just, the BAFTAs are the BAFTAs, the Oscars are the Oscars? What do you think?
Every time I think I get a one up on what the Oscars like have a strategy for, it like goes out the window the next year. I'm like, oh, I think like whatever the Golden Globes have in mind, and then it's just like, nope. Whatever the BAFTAs have in mind, nope. Whatever everybody, it's just like, nope. Like whenever you think they're gonna go one way, like they're not now. Are they gonna go with the really really safe option of the Brutalist, or are they gonna go something with a little bit less like predictable, like The Substance? I don't know. I really like. I've heard nothing. I've heard the Brutalist. That's pretty much it. Ticks every box that the Oscars usually go for, and I think that might be the one they're going for. That's the one I've heard about the most, at least. So I think that seems like the way to go, but I haven't seen it, so I can't judge. But I know a lot of people were. That's like I know a lot of people were kind of going for Emilia Perez, even with all the controversy. I know a lot of people are going for Conclave, but the Brutalist is the biggest one. So I do think that one, but I mean, we all thought like La La Land was gonna fucking win that year, and look what happened. We all thought 1917 was gonna win that year. Look at what happened. So we all thought Black Klansman was gonna win that year. Look what happened. So it's I don't know. I like the like fucking 2 years ago we had Everything Ever All at Once, which is like crazy. And then we got, World War II biopic. So are we gonna go 2 for 2 with another World War II biopic? So like we'll see, but I mean, I can't imagine that another 3 hour World War II centric biopic about a guy that started a chain reaction in regards to building something that made an impact on the world. Are we going to go 2 for 2? Let's see. But that's the one I've been hearing the most. So I don't know. I can't judge the movie by itself, but that's the vibe I'm getting. But I would like to see something a little bit like out of the realm of possibility. I would like to see Conclave win. I think out of the ones I've seen, that's the best, but the horror fan in me wants to see The Substance win. So obviously we will see, but
Yeah.
By the way, I don't think there's a trend.
Well, I mean, momentum is definitely a real thing when it comes to something like the Oscars, because people are voting on that, right? So by the way, Enterprising, it's good to see you, and we hope that this gives you a reprieve from the day that you've had, and we're here to entertain, inform, and just have a conversation. Let's all be present in the moment. We've also got Ron in the chat, whose pick for best picture is Honora, and you know what? Honora has momentum based on some of the recent award shows. So hello, Ron, and of course Derpy's in the chat saying, this title I hope is reality. Yes, we will talk about Brendan Sklenar later in the show, so definitely stick around for that. And Hosea, of course, was first in the chat, so hello, Hosea. And Fiona's here.
Always appreciate seeing Fiona. Your profile pic. Let's
Absolutely.
go.
And I'm sure, Fiona, the chat is smelling really, really nice today. So,
and of course, me and you, Dan, we're looking professional. We're looking very professional. Got to get that in before Steven Ortega does.
Yep, absolutely. Well, with that said, like I mentioned earlier, the BAFTAs, were the biggest award show of the weekend. They weren't the only award show this weekend. The next one that I wanted to kind of dive into, and we're not gonna like spend as much time talking about these because they're smaller in terms of scale. They don't necessarily mean as much for the Oscar race, but they do have a reflection on some of this, more technical categories. Let's call it that. Honora and Nickel Boys won, some of the top honors at the WGA Awards, and of course Shogun won on the television side. Hacks won 2 prizes. So there were 2 simultaneous ceremonies because the WGA is divided between the WGA East and WGA West. So there's one for each of the coasts. So they hold their ceremonies together, one in New York, one in LA. And overall, I think from this, as far as the Oscar conversation goes, it does reflect well on Anora again. It might be one that takes away one of the screenplay awards as well. I forget which one it qualifies for, if it's adapted or original. But God, Hosea, come on now. I'm sure Yash will, we'll be happy to be a part of the chat if and when he does show up. Hello to TC24. Don't respect.
I
my
was
boy Yash.
kidding.
There you go.
Emoji.
There you go. And yes, Ron, thank you for your review. We will get into Captain America 4 later on in the show as well. But yeah, I mean,
love how like that's like the average review. I'm like, it's not the worst thing ever. That's like pretty much how every review for this movie starts that way. I want to get into that later because and we'll get
I have a lot
into
to
that
say.
later. I'm just saying
we have a lot to talk about on that front. But yeah, I mean, look, the WGA Awards, again, another, I think, good sign for Anora if you're a fan of that movie. And then we also had the Makeup and Hairstylist Guild Awards, which took place over the weekend as well on Saturday, the 12th annual. So, relatively newcomer on the award circuit, especially compared to something like the BAFTAs, for example. So Wicked winning on some of the big ones, The Substance, The Penguin on the television side, and Palm Royale, the Apple TV Plus series starring Kristen Wiig, also won. So, again, when you go off of this, does it tell me that Wicked is a front runner for the hair and makeup categories? Yes. Is it unexpected? No. The Substance, yeah, I mean, you could say there was a lot of SFX makeup in that movie, so I suppose it qualifies. I mean, John, does this surprise you that these are the movies and the TV shows that were winning for hair and makeup this weekend?
No, that makes sense to me. Seems like the usual lineup I suspected, so yeah.
Jalen is like, damn it, late again. It's all good, man. It's all good. You're here pretty early. We have got lots to get into as we keep going. So speaking of keeping going, let's move on to the next piece of news. This has been something that's been swirling on the internet, and we keep getting more details. Over the weekend, we were going to talk about it on Friday, but obviously we didn't have the show. So here we are talking about it today. The Goonies are getting a sequel, finally. It's being developed at Warner Brothers, and Steven Spielberg and Chris Columbus are both producing. It would be potentially 40 years after the original film came out. Warner Brothers has now confirmed that the follow-up is in the works, John. I want to kind of get into a little bit of the details about this. So I'm going to read out this on Variety. Of course, earlier we were looking at an article in the Hollywood Reporter, so all the big trades are reporting on it. So here, let me read this out. Warner Brothers has hired Patsy Panciaroli to write the script for the sequel. It was announced on Friday. So again, like I mentioned, this was news on Friday, and we're just kind of catching up on this. Now, of course, the original Goonies came out in like 40 years ago, 1985. That's it's been a while. Steven Spielberg, Christy McCosco Krieger, and Holly Barrio will produce for Amblin Entertainment. That's Steven Spielberg's production company. And of course, Chris Columbus is also on board, like I mentioned. He wrote the original Goonies script, so he's involved in this one as a producer. He's not writing or directing, but he is involved. Lauren Schuler Donner will executive produce. I believe Richard Donner directed the OG, right? So there we go.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no director currently attached to the movie, and there are no plot details revealed. Of course, we know some of the actors from the original. You had, Josh Brolin, Sean Astin, Corey Feldman, Ke-Huy Quan, Martha Plimpton. They all were in the original movie. They recently reunited on the red carpet for Love Hurts, I believe it was, or one of the award shows. So I'm sure they'll, consider bringing those actors back because maybe their characters are grown up and now this is the next generation of kids going through a similar adventure. Of course, the original movie made $125 million in 1985. That's a lot more money today, relatively speaking. And it had a budget of only $19 million. It's one of the cult classics. I mean, more than even a cult classic. I think The Goonies is just a classic, and that the world has probably been clamoring for a sequel for a while. But 40 years later, you gotta wonder where they're gonna go with this, Sean. So let me ask you, what are your thoughts on this? Do you this movie basically entered the National Registry in the Library of Congress as as something to be preserved in 2017. So obviously, The Goonies is a big part of our cultural history, and now that we are getting a sequel, what are your thoughts on the idea for just doing a sequel this late in the process is like Top Gun Maverick, came out like 35 years after the original. And then do you think any of the original cast will return for the movie, considering all the behind the scene talent, like especially on the producing side, is kind of the same. So
I mean, a lot of them have talked about that they wanted to do it. I know Kehu Kwan wanted to do it. I know Sean Astin wanted to do it. I think Josh Brolin maybe wanted to do it. I don't know. But I have no interest in this. I just think it just comes way too late. Like, if they were gonna make this into a franchise, which I think it kind of should have been, because it like just centering around kids like going on wacky adventures could have been fun. I'm sure there was an animated series at the time, because every like major movie got an animated series for like a season or two, and then got immediately canceled when nobody watched it. But I think I just don't really care. I love the original movie. It's a great movie. It's a classic movie. It didn't need it doesn't need a sequel this many years later. It's just like they're too like, what's it gonna? It's like, oh, it's gonna be about their kids or a bunch of weird middle-aged dudes going on a fucking adventure. Like, that's kind of lame. Also, I don't really trust the writer, because they wrote the Jay and Silent Bob reboot, which I heard fucking sucked. So I just don't know. I mean, one of the guys isn't even an actor anymore. Like, he was in like this one movie and then like two other movies, and then he quit acting. So I can't imagine that they'll fucking do this. Right. At least I can't imagine this being any good. So, yeah, I'm sorry if people disagree. I just don't have any interest in this. Like, I love Kehu Kwan. Even though Love Hurts wasn't the greatest thing ever, I still enjoyed seeing him. I thought he was great. Seeing him in anything, I don't think it will be. Like, you had Joseph Kosinski, you had Tom Cruise heading, like, trying to make this the best thing ever. But, like, I don't know. I just can't imagine this being any good. Like, because at least Top Gun Maverick, it like kind of worked. It just hit every single solitary thing that shouldn't have made it work, but it did, and it just became like a classic. And honestly, I think it tops the original. I never really cared for the original Top Gun. It was okay, but the sequel is just way fucking better. It just visually, it's just way more exciting. But yeah, I can't imagine this being any good. I really can't. I mean, half of them don't even fucking act anymore. I mean, Josh Brolin, as he said, is retired now, right? Because he said that because after Denis Villeneuve didn't get the directing nominee, he's like, nope, we're done. I'm out.
Somebody said Top Gun Maverick. I don't know. Who said Top Gun Maverick? I just yeah, I mean that's a high standard there. Top Gun Maverick. You're trying to follow up. I mean, the comparison is fair. 1985 was an iconic year, and yeah, it's been a similar amount of time has passed. I mean, obviously by 45
Damn it, I
years,
thought it was gonna cut it immediately into the Top Gun thing. Damn
it. There's more to it than that. You can't just I
can't just cut in, unfortunately.
I know what you were going for.
I like that. We'll do that as the outro. Since somebody mentioned Top Gun Maverick, we'll do that as the
outro. Oh, by the way, Ron, I have seen that. Have you? I don't think it's a topic on today's show, but maybe I'll bring it in for quick hits. There's a new poster of Karl Urban as Johnny Cage for the new Mortal Kombat movie that I was floating around the other day. And I was like, holy cow, it looks great. By the way, Caleb in the chat, honka honka.
A lot of emojis going around.
Why does TC24 want me to say who the fuck is that guy in my best Irish accent? I don't know. Hugo, what is your big secret? What do you have to admit? Yeah, there was a lot of emojis going around. Batman 89, 89 is the best year as two magical things happen. Batman 89 and guess. Oh, okay, I see.
I bet Hugo Millie is probably going to say that they haven't seen the original Goonies, if I were to take a guess.
Yeah, Fair enough.
Which
Fair
is
enough.
fine. Like, not everyone has seen everything. Although Letterboxd, Paddington in Peru was my 2000th movie that I watched on Letterboxd. But that includes like comedy specials, miniseries, short films, Pixar
You know what?
shorts.
I have to find that poster now. I have to because it looks so good. Mortal Kombat.
It does look
2.
good.
You've seen it, right? Like, you know what I'm talking about?
I just looked it up. It's very cool. It's very cool.
It is.
I'm probably not going to watch because I've heard the first Mortal Kombat remake is really bad. And so I don't know how good this will be, but hopefully he could do a good job.
Yeah, let's see. You know what? We're gonna bring this in for quick hits because it is insane. But we gotta keep the ball rolling here on the news stories. Let me kind of reorganize myself here because I have to bring in the poster for quick hits. We have so much news today. Oh my god. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. So, John, G20. I mentioned this last week that a trailer came out like over the weekend. It's a new Viola Davis film. She's playing like President Danielle Sutton in the movie. Now, G20, of course, is referring to, G20, the conference, like, you have all the basically the 20 big countries in the world, in the world, relatively speaking, it's a political thing where it's a summit where all these big countries like USA, Russia, China, and India, and like, all those like France, UK, they meet up and, talk about like what's going on in the world, but what are the priorities of the week and the day and stuff like that. So apparently in this movie, Viola Davis plays the president. Then, she goes to the G20 summit. So, something happens. I think her daughter gets kidnapped. And then, she all of a sudden becomes this badass who apparently is like, a John Wick in hiding or something. 20 nations, 19 captives, one hope. I'm guessing that means she's the only she's the only head of state that doesn't get, captured. So she's the one rescuing everybody else. So, it's a movie that's going to be coming out on Amazon Prime. It looks like a movie that is made for streaming. You saw the trailer. What are your thoughts on this? I'm excited because, again, it's not something to me. By the way, I'm just going to say, to me, it doesn't look like anything that I haven't seen before. But for a streaming film, I'm like, fine. You know what? I'll go watch it. I'll have a good time with it. I don't have to go to a movie theater. I can just sit at home and do it. So why not? What are your thoughts?
Looks okay. Looks like somebody took Die Hard, White House Down, Air Force One, and stuck it in a blender, and this is what came out. And yeah, that's about right. Although Anthony Starr in his actual Australian accent is fucking crazy. Like, you're like, just him playing Homelander for so long, you forget, oh yeah, I forgot this guy's Australian. So, or New Zealand or whatever the fuck he's actually from. I think it's Australia. So, yeah.
Caleb saying G20 looks like a fake trailer from Tropic Thunder. Oh my god, those fake trailers in Tropic Thunder are still to this day some of the best fake trailers I've ever seen. Jalen saying I love Viola Davis, but this doesn't seem good. Hugo Millie saying Amanda Waller is gonna be kicking some ass in the show. Yeah, she looks great in the movie. I'm like, you put Viola Davis in a sleeveless dress with a semi-automatic and what else? She has like two things in her hand. There you go, and a little Glock, I suppose. I'm like, okay, fine. You get the presidential limo in the background. Cool, I'll watch it. Like, you got a couple of hours to waste away and you want to just put on a movie, I'm sure you could do a lot worse than this one. So
Ron, it's obvious.
No, I don't. Well, dude, she's an actor. She's working. This is a project that
she's
pays,
like she's with DC right now. She don't need that. She got that. Yeah. She got that DC.
This is like, like it's her job. As an actor, you sign up for a movie and you work on a movie. Like, it's, I don't see it as anything that's controversial. I mean, yeah, we'll see how good or bad it is, like when the time comes. By the way, Hugo Millie thinks that The Phantom Menace is the best Star Wars movie, so that's gotten the chat riled up. So, in the meantime, what might be Christopher Nolan's best movie? It might be his next movie, The Odyssey, of course. We now have a first look at Matt Damon, who we now know is playing Odysseus in this, epic. This period epic that, of course, is being directed by Christopher Nolan. They're filming, I believe, at least one of the locations we know is in Italy itself on Goat Island, which is where in the Odyssey that that Odysseus lands. So like, okay, there we go. Like they picked out the actual location from the book. Um, but the first look obviously leads you to wonder, now that we know who Matt Damon is playing, what does that mean for like some of the other characters in the movie? Because like they say here in the post on Threads, it's of course been long reported that Matt Damon and Tom Holland are the co-leads of this movie. So now that we know that Matt Damon is playing Odysseus, doesn't it mean that pretty much Tom Holland, the only other character he can be playing is Telemachus, Odysseus's son? I mean, obviously the age factor, like it would line up. What are your thoughts on that theory, by the way?
That could be a good theory. I don't know much about the Odyssey. I've never read it. I know it's about an Odyssey and like I was like ancient Greece, all that shit. I never really read it. I never really learned about it. Like I know like basic shit and sort of like common sense sort of things of like 10-year journey, going back home, all that shit. So there's all that. So yeah, I'm curious with how Nolan will do this. It's probably gonna be a fucking like 6-hour movie. He's just gonna go fucking cray with it because why not? But I'm still stoked for it. Looks good to me. It looks, looks accurate. I only read. Yeah, I've heard that the Odyssey and the Iliad are fucking hard to fucking read.
I read it in like high school. It's been years, and I could give you maybe some cliff notes, but it's like you have to jog your memory, right? Because it is a big book. It's a long story. It's a big story. It's not. And I read a simplified English version of it because obviously it was originally not written in English, and then there's like an old English version of it. So like it's anyway. TC24 saying Nolan can do no wrong. Jalen Harris saying like the Superman costume haters, fake it, look bad. 300 suits look better. This is going to flop. Lol, sorry, I have to deal. Okay, Jalen, you're talking about Superman. We're gonna get into that later. Right now, we're talking about the Odyssey. Ron, I also read The Catcher in the Rye in high school.
Ouch! I'm
but
sorry.
Enterprising kind of giving us a little bit of context. This story takes place during the Trojan War, which is obviously a historical event. So. Yeah, I mean, it looks nice. It's definitely gonna get compared to like the Gladiator movies. I mean, maybe more so the original Gladiator than the recent one. Even though I thought the second Gladiator movie was pretty fun, but the original is the original, and I guess this might be like Christopher Nolan dropping the mic on that genre. Like now that he's done a biopic and won an Oscar and made almost $1 billion. He's obviously made the best superhero movie of all time in The Dark Knight, and I think he made the best sci-fi movie of this century so far, if not one of the best of all time in Inception. There's so many categories in which Christopher Nolan is like right near, or if not at the very top, and now with the Odyssey, I can tell you that the cast itself is obviously not just impressive, but the story and the scope, it's right in Christopher Nolan's it's right in his backyard. This is what Christopher Nolan movies are made of. It's epic scope. But speaking of which, we have more casting news because we talked about a couple of lesser known actors joining the cast last week, more or less a week ago. And of course, we've talked about Tom Holland, Matt Damon, like Robert Pattinson, Zendaya, like everybody and anybody. It's everybody and anybody's in this movie already.
This just in, guys. Sir Laurence Olivier has been resurrected to join Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey.
Well, I don't know about Sir Laurence Olivier, but Mia Goth has now become the latest to join Matt Damon and Tom Holland and Lupita Nyong'o and so on and so forth in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. The movie, of course, comes out in July of 2026. They are going to start filming not too long from now this year, of course. So what are your thoughts on Mia Goth joining the movie? Again, this is probably the highest profile project she's ever done, but just adding to a list of A-listers. I mean, in most movies she's been a part of, she's been the lead. I don't know where she fits in the picture here, but this would be probably, one of the biggest casts she's ever been a part of. What do you think she brings to the table that that might add to what is already an impressive cast for the movie?
Like great acting. I don't know what else to say. Like what else? She's a great actress. She's been in a lot of great stuff. Nice to see you're stepping up. Love to see it. I don't know what else to say to you, Chris. No, this just in. Pauly Shore is now cast in Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey. And Christopher Nolan is so talented, he's going to actually make it so that Pauly Shore gives a good performance.
I mean, Jalen Harris saying potentially we'll have Athena and Poseidon, so maybe you could have Mia Goth playing maybe Athena, for example. I mean, we'll see. But again, I think we looked at it. Actually, there was a graphic with all the actors that were in this movie. I forget where the link is now, but we pulled it up and Liz was on the show and we were like, look at that list. I don't know. I mean, we see this every once in a while. Big director, A-list cast across the board. It doesn't always hit, but yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a cast this talented that is this extensive. And now you add Mia Goth into the picture. So there you go. Hopefully The Odyssey is going to be a great movie. I mean, in Christopher Nolan, I trust, and I know a lot of you do too. So
I'd be willing to bet that the rough cut for this movie is probably going to be like fucking 12 hours long.
Well, you know what though? Christopher Nolan is one a director who doesn't have a problem with pacing and cutting out the fat. So I trust him on that front. Like, whereas a lot of other directors, I'd be worried. Like even Ridley Scott, like probably leaves a lot of fat in his movies that leads you to wonder, like maybe you could have trimmed off an extra 40 minutes or so, But with that said, Tom Cruise, as you see the article on the screen, he's currently shooting a movie with Alejandro G. Inarritu. There we go. I always mess that name up. But he's also preparing to star in another future project. Now, this comes from an article in Deadline, where basically, so let me give you guys some context, right? So the BAFTAs were happening this weekend. We talked about it at the top of the show. And so before the BAFTAs, Tom Cruise threw a party at the Mayfair Club or Lounge. I believe it's one of the higher end venues in the area. And basically a who's who of Hollywood was there. And as part of that gathering, some reporters were there, and one of them happened to catch up with Tom Cruise and ask him, like, what are you working on? And basically Tom Cruise just kind of like riffed off like a bunch of stuff that he's currently got on his docket. He says, I'm editing a film, which is of course the Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. I'm shooting another, which is the one that Inarritu's directing, and then he's prepping the next one. So we know that he's working on something beyond just filming the movie. I mean, it's not a surprise that Tom Cruise is, working on one in post-production, shooting one, and then prepping another. I just wonder what that other film is. Do you think that's the one where he goes to space? Do you think that's the Top Gun Maverick sequel? What are your thoughts on this? Do you think that's the Christopher McQuarrie movie? They mentioned here, there's a Broadsword movie coming out.
I don't know. He mentioned a lot of I'm totally going to space. Like, is he really like? I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. I don't know which one it could be. It's probably not going to happen for years from now, but I'm excited for all his projects. And even if he's not doing Mission Impossible anymore, I'm stoked for what he has.
I mean, look, they are advertising Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning as like the big finale to this whole series. I don't believe it is. It's probably just putting it to rest for now, if anything, kind of like what they did after the third Mission Impossible movie, right? And then they came back with Ghost Protocol a number of years later. But obviously, if they do return to the franchise now that he's actually starting to age, Tom Cruise, it might be in a different capacity. Maybe Ethan Hunt will be more of a supporting character that kind of is.
If only Tom Cruise's ego can take it.
Well, fair. I mean,
this man is gonna die on screen. Like, his death is going to be filmed. Like, it's not even a joke. It's just like that's what's gonna happen. What movie it is, we don't know just yet. But he's gonna fucking die on screen.
Well, as the article says here, Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning, Tom Cruise is looking to potentially have it, premiere with a screening at the Cannes Film Festival. That is, of course, where a lot of big blockbusters launch. Recent examples would include the latest Indiana Jones movie, The Dial of Destiny, which launched to mixed reviews. So that kind of like derailed the campaign for that movie more so than helping it. But if you remember, Top Gun Maverick launched at Cannes and had, that whole standing ovation and everything. And then from there, it went on to become the hit of the year. And even to this day, people are talking about it. I'm talking about it, obviously, more than just talking about it. So Tom Cruise, not a stranger to launching big movies, at Cannes. And of course, Top Gun Maverick was also a Paramount movie, as is Mission Impossible. the final reckoning. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think this is pretty much a confirmation that it's going to launch at Cannes? Because considering, you know, Tom Cruise's history at the festival, especially with Top Gun Maverick most recently, or do you think this is just, you know, he would like to do it, but, you know, it's really, maybe it will happen, maybe it won't happen.
Sorry, you're very distracting. Anyway.
Yeah, sorry. Okay.
But
I
don't know. I just think, I mean, it would be really cool. Like, but it just like, when it comes to Cannes, it just, I don't really, Mission Impossible 8 isn't the movie I think of when I think of Cannes. Like, I think of like the most prestigious shit imaginable, or stuff that acts like the most prestigious shit imaginable. I can't really, unless I'm like totally wrong on that, but like I just can't like think of that. But like, you know, hey, you do you, man.
I mean, look, we've got Enterprising in the chat saying, I'd rather see Cruise do something different than just his stunt heart action films. I don't know what you mean by that. Anyway, thank you, TC24, by the way. Cannes has a history of having big blockbusters debut there. So in that sense, I'm not surprised. Because like I mentioned, like Top Gun Maverick and Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny. No. In general, obviously, Cannes is, you know, is a festival in France, you know, in Cannes, the town, where a lot of, you know, big indie movies, awards contenders debut. But at the same time, it has a reputation like Toronto. The Toronto International Film Festival, TIFF, also has a reputation of launching big movies that potentially are good enough to not only, you know, be big blockbusters commercially, but also have, you know, some awards contention. Of course, Top Gun Maverick was nominated for Best Picture that year at the Oscars as well. So I would imagine that, you know, this could be a great launching point for it. It could go bad for you like it did for Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny. So the downside is if you go there, you better know what you have, you know, in terms of the picture that you're bringing to the festival, because if it's not good, then I remember like the box office projections for Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny were pretty good. They were over 100 million. And then the reviews came out after Cannes, and all of a sudden they started to dive. And then that movie, as we know, obviously wasn't the best outing for Indiana Jones. And then at the box office, it also didn't do so well, to the point where James Mangold got really defensive about it. So you could still have fun.
That's why.
You could still have fun with it. It could still work for you. Top Gun Maverick, obviously, like, you know, made the most of that experience. So hopefully, if Tom Cruise is, you know, bringing us back to Cannes, then, you know, it's for the right reasons, and then hopefully it helps it out more so than the other way around. By the way, we have 5ash Art in the chat. Hello, 5ash.
Yeah, 5ash Art being a fucking prick as always. So like, yeah, great. Anyway.
Well, all right, 5ash. Well, you keep doing you. We'll keep doing the show. Let's keep the ball rolling here, John. Now it's time for quick hits, because we're done with the news portion of the show. So why don't you hit that music, and we're going to dive in to the quicker part of the show. So let's roll into it, shall we? The first story, I mentioned this a bit earlier. Let me actually see if I can open it up again. That music was loud. Why did you just do that?
I just
blowing my ears out, man.
I just wanted to see if anybody would notice. I just wanted to see how loud
I notice. It's in my ear. I notice. Of course I notice. All right, let's start with the first one. This is something we talked about just like 5 minutes ago. Johnny Cage is set to be introduced in Mortal Kombat 2. And if we now have a poster, of course, Carl Urban, if you were wondering, that's Carl Urban, you know, a stylized version of Carl Urban, but he's playing Johnny Cage. And I just love it, because, I mean, there was a tease at the end of the first movie, right, where they kind of see a poster within the locker room, I think, and it shows Johnny Cage as a movie star. And so that was a hint that obviously he's going to be a big part of the second movie. We just didn't know how big. I see this poster and I'm like, you know what? Johnny Cage from the studio that brought you Rebel Without a Cage, Uncaged Fury. Give me that movie. Like, I want that. I want a Johnny Cage spin-off already before this movie is out.
Tropic Thunder movies. That's what I imagine.
I need a fake trailer for this movie in Mortal Kombat 2. This is viral marketing level material. We got Man of Steel Magnolias in the chat. Hello.
O'Shea Goodman's also in the chat. What up?
Caleb saying diabolical. Yeah. O'Shea, by the way, hi O'Shea. Like you said, John, O'Shea is here. I almost forgot this movie was coming out this year. I know it's a big year for franchise movies,
because
but
nobody
this
is
one of them.
excited for it.
Dude, well, I'm excited now. I mean, I'm excited that what do you think about the poster, John?
I think it looks great. I mean, I've heard nothing but horrendous things about the first movie, so I don't really have much faith in the sequel, but like if it's good, I'll watch it.
All right, well, let's keep the ball rolling, because I mean, I'm sure we're gonna get more marketing like this. I'm just excited. This poster looks amazing. It's better. It's a better poster than 90% of the posters I've seen this year. So I'm all for it. Speaking of posters, of course, Dune Messiah might be getting a poster
fucking
not too
go.
long from now, because according to Deadline, it's starting to film. It's gonna start filming in June of this year. I mean, I was surprised because I thought that the filming for this got delayed, but I guess not.
I mean, it does say Deadline, but it doesn't leave a link, so that's what I'm a little worried about.
But I will say I did find the original article. I just wanted to use this. I mean, because hey, I've got the original article actually.
Yeah, please. I just like just
this
show
is
it
not the
off
original
because-
article, but this is one of the articles talking about it. But yes.
Okay.
So this is real
but-
news. This is not a rumor. Dune Messiah it's from Deadline. It's gonna start filming in June of this year.
Which I'm excited for. I didn't really care for the first Dune. I liked the second. I mean, you say first and second when it's the same story. It just cut into two. Like the first part, it was just all set up and it was really boring. Second half, a lot better. I wouldn't say what's one of my I would say it's in my top 20 of the year. Like it's not top 10 or top 5, but it was really good and a surprise. I think it has some problems. I think it's still very slow and it has its issues here and there, some pacing issues, but for the most part, really good. I can't wait to see Anya Taylor-Joy because she was teased in that dream sequence as Paul's younger sister, who was in the original book and in the Lynch movie, but they tweaked it so that she was just that Lady Jessica was just pregnant throughout the whole thing, so that the time frame could be smaller. But yeah, I'm stoked for it. I think Denis Villeneuve is cooking with this, and I think it's gonna be great.
Yep. By the way, we got Right Dude in the chat and Rager365. Hello to you guys. If you are watching and you're not hitting the like button, what are you doing? Please hit the like button. It does help us out a lot. I'm excited. By the way, the source for this is from the same article with that veteran UK reporter Baz Bemi Boy, I suppose I don't know how to pronounce his last name. The one with the Tom Cruise report is from the same article where he was at the party and he overheard that Dune Messiah is going to production this June. I mean, considering who was at the party, they weren't just throwing around rumors, or they weren't people who weren't in the know. You have some of the actors from the movie there. You have some of the people that work behind the scenes. So I would trust the report. It's not official, but yeah, Dune Messiah coming to us very soon. It seems it's June of this year, it's starting to film, so we're gonna probably get it next year, right? That's the kind of the release date. So I'm excited for Dune Messiah. I'm also excited for Spider-Man 4 because according to a promotion for Tom Holland's family charity, they let a little detail slip, and that was Spider-Man 4's filming location.
Oh wow,
and the schedule.
Tom Holland slipping information when he didn't mean to. That's crazy.
So according to the promotion, the winners of a sweepstakes are going to receive a set visit in London between the summer and autumn of this year. So that seems to be the time frame when this movie is going to go into production. So it seems like Tom Holland's going to film The Odyssey with Christopher Nolan in spring of this year, and then immediately from there he's going to go on and film Spider-Man 4.
Going
so it's
from
going to start filming in London.
I want this movie to be good. I've heard that Cretton is a good director. I haven't seen Shang-Chi, but I mean before Shang-Chi, I've heard his other movies are very good. And I want Spider-Man to be good. It's just I feel like Spider-Man is just kind of this has gotten all sorts of delays, production problems, all that stuff. And then you have the fucking Beyond the Spider-Verse, your fucking main star is a fucking asshole, and your directors keep treating the animators like shit, and this shit has not started yet, so there's that. So it's just major theater experiences for Spider-Man, whether it's animation or live action, total garbage. Yet amazingly, the rinky-dink show with no budget manages to be the best Spider-Man thing we've gotten in fucking years. So, like, go figure. I don't know.
Look, by the way, the question from O'Shea is a good one. He's asking, do you think it's going to be another multiverse film that's going to tie into Doomsday or Secret Wars?
I don't.
So
I don't think so, because sorry to cut you off, but wasn't it the whole thing was that like Sony wanted it to be multiverse and Kevin Feige wanted it to be grounded? Wasn't that like the whole thing with that?
That was the whole thing. I don't know where they landed with it in terms of like what they want to do. I think Tom Holland also wanted a more like, your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, like, somebody who's just in the city of New York fighting on the streets, not somebody who's fighting a world-ending threat.
I don't think Sony won, because I remember Kevin Feige saying like this is gonna be a more grounded movie.
Well, Ray J is saying I think Sony won, but I mean we don't have confirmation of it either way. There were reports, rumors, but what I will say as far as its connections to the multiverse, so O'Shea and then everybody else wondering, I think this movie is tentatively set for release between Doomsday and Secret Wars. So keeping that in mind, I feel like this movie is probably gonna have some element of the multiverse, and maybe it's not the focus of the movie. Like Captain America 4 rarely at all, if at all, touches the multiverse. I mean, it touches it slightly, very slightly, but it's most of the movie. You don't have to worry about the fact that there's a multiverse in the MCU to enjoy Captain America 4, or just watch it, but regardless of whether you enjoy it or not. So to that end, they can easily make a Spider-Man 4 that doesn't tie closely to the multiverse, but still exists in between Doomsday and Secret Wars. We don't have an official release date, but as far as I know, it's earmarked for release between those two Avengers movies. So it would make sense if it's chronologically taking place around that time that, the multiverse is still a thing. I just enjoy some of the comments here, like Spider-Man hardly home, Spider-Man no home at all. That does make sense. I don't think they're gonna have home in the title, because I think that trilogy is done. So maybe this is just gonna be Spider-Man, like the Spider-Man. I don't know what they're gonna call it, but Ray J saying hopefully the Secret Wars setup happens in the post-credit scene or something. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, O'Shea also saying still crazy the next MCU film after Fantastic Four is Avengers Doomsday. Yeah, it's gonna ramp up pretty quickly, and I think the Avengers Doomsday is gonna be different in the sense that a lot of the story is probably going to be set up within the movie itself. There's not going to be as tied into what has led up to it like the Infinity Saga was. Or maybe it will. We'll see. So far, the multiverse seems pretty disparate in terms of the story threads that they've been, tangling and untangling. So hopefully, the two Avengers movies will tie it all together. You know what's also going to hopefully tie it all together? Daredevil Born Again. Because season 1 is coming out soon, but season 2 has now begun filming. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think there's a good sign that they've already started working on another season for the show?
No, not at all. Could just be a shitty season 1 and we're going to get an even shittier season 2. I'm still skeptical about this. I don't think it'll be as good as the Netflix show. I think the showrunner is acting extraordinarily desperate in regards to this. So I don't know. I want to be excited. I love this character. I love Charlie Cox playing this character. But I'm just so I can't like be excited for it. Like I just can't, because I know Disney and they love to ruin good shit. So like I can't get excited for this as much as people would want me to get excited for this.
It's better than Penguin and has less style. Yeah, sorry. I don't know. They need to stop talking about the show. They just let the show come out and let the people judge before they continue to talk about how great it is. But anyway, season 2 is filming. Enterprising saying I'm on two minds. I'm off two minds about Spidey 4. Either Secret Wars black symbiote suit or something that's more street level, pitting him against Kingpin. We'll see. I mean, I don't know. Maybe Spider-Man has a cameo in Daredevil Born Again. I doubt it, but it would be nice. O'Shea is enjoying your honest takes, John. So let's keep the ball rolling on those honest takes. Of course, we already talked about this, but you'd see these are some of the visuals from the first season, which supposedly has less style, is more gritty than the Penguin even. But moving on to this is the first look at the Punisher logo in the new show. It looks very similar to what we have seen before in the Netflix version
Looks
of the
like
show.
Cthulhu. Looks less like a
But it's
skeleton and looks more like Cthulhu.
Yeah, it looks similar but different in like when you go beyond the nose, like it looks different. Obviously, like this Punisher symbol has sort of been stolen in a way by
it has been stolen. It has been stolen.
Less
by idiots.
seemly people, like with not so noble causes, I suppose is one way to put it. So I appreciate that they're changing things up a bit, so it's not a direct, it doesn't feed the fire of politics, as it were. But I don't know, John, what do you think about the new logo?
It looks weird to me. It just looks off. It's just like either make it the new logo that they were forced to give him in the comics because it was stolen by dumbasses who don't understand this character at all, or don't know it's from a comic book, or just don't have it. Like, I understand like the skeleton is like so like iconic, but like, hey, the 1989 movie didn't have the skeleton, so like, you know what? It's sometimes just and everyone forgets that Punisher movie happened, but like sometimes I don't know, just maybe like hide it more. It's just like it looks weird. It's just like either do it or don't. Like either have it look like the label or don't. Logo, not label. Look like the logo or don't. Like it just like they're trying to do like a weird in between. I understand it. I get it. You don't want to, but it's just like I know everyone hates the new logo because it's not the Punisher, but like that's what you gotta go with now because people are stupid. So I would have said they should have just gone with the new logo. I mean, it's like it's under Disney now, so it's like under a new like thing. So it looks weird to me. Like it just doesn't look right, and I don't like the lines. Like I understand it's part of like the armor he's wearing, but it like doesn't look right. So yeah, I would say either should have just gone with the new logo or not use it at all if you were going to go with this weird in between. So,
well, we'll see how. I don't think it's going to affect the show too much because it's not like the logo influences the quality of the fight.
I mean, it's not like it's a Punisher show.
I mean, we'll see how the show turns out and how much that plays a part. Of course, in other news, Daredevil Born Again, we now have confirmed that it's going to have a 2-episode premiere on March 4th. So it's not just 1 episode. You're going to get 2. I wonder how long each episode is going to be. I don't know if that information is out there. Let us know in the chat if you guys know about that, if that information is available. But John, are you liking the idea that they're going to give us 2 episodes to start, or do you think one would have been enough?
That's kind of cool. I mean, I like what they're doing with Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, where it's like they're kind of doing a little bit of both, where it's like binging but not binging. Like, all right, that's kind of a decent idea. I like it weekly because it like gives us something. If it's good, then it gives us something to look forward to. But I don't mind either. I don't mind binging or like it's just like if I can binge it, cool. If I can, like, I just go at my own pace. Like weekly, I feel like it's a good like marker to have. Like, okay, you watch one and you don't have to worry. Like, right. I feel like there is like a bit of a Big Brother is watching you. Like there's like this need to like finish the entire season because of spoilers. People don't want to talk about it. They don't shut up about it. So there's like this need. Like for instance, when I was finishing Cobra Kai, even though that was 5 episodes of a 15-episode season, I still was like, well, it's the series finale, it's the ending. So I'm like, oh, I gotta watch it. So like I feel like pressured to watch it when if it was weekly, there's not as much pressure for me because I like to go at my own pace, but at the same time, it's like I can't. So weekly is kind of nice. So like trying to do like an in-between works, like Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, but I also like the weekly aspect. I know maybe I'm crazy. I know not a lot of people like.
No, I appreciate that, and obviously we're going to be getting weekly episodes here too. But the 2-episode premiere, you know what it tells me is they're confident enough in this show that they want people to really get a good taste of what the show is about. Oftentimes, the first episode is a lot of setup, and then you get into the action. I like that they're giving us 2 episodes up front so that you can really get a good idea of like, okay, I'm going to come back next week to watch the next episode. And you get a nice healthy dose because especially with Disney Plus shows, most of these shows are not even a full 40 minutes, excluding credits, right? So if it is one of those things where the show itself is like 35 minutes and there's credits, I'm going to be a lot more satisfied if I get 2 episodes and basically an hour's worth of story than if it's just a half hour and you'll be like, oh God, like, could you give us a little bit more? You know, it's like, I don't think we'll be lacking for the amount of story we get, and hopefully it'll be enough to like keep us, you know, attached and stick, you know, have us be around for the next week and episode 3 and so on and so forth, because they are filming a second season. So I'm sure they want us to watch and enjoy and make this a big hit, much like the Netflix show was. So we'll see. But you know, in the meantime, we have to talk about this rumor. It's the latest rumor. Coming from one of the scoopers, John, so take it with a big grain of salt. But what would you think if Margaret Qualley, who of course recently was in The Substance, I forget the other big movie that she was in, it was like an indie movie, we reviewed it on the show last year, but you know, she's been in a bunch of different things, obviously The Substance being the latest one. What do you think about Margaret Qualley taking on the role of Rogue in the Mutant Saga at the MCU?
Well, I think she could do it. However, I have heard her speak with a southern accent, and it did make me want to put scissors in my ears. So I'm gonna say no to this, unless she can work on her southern accent, because it was in Drive Away Dolls, which was not a very good movie, and she was good in it, and it was an accurate southern accent, but it was also very accurate. Like literally every person I've talked to about that movie who lives in the South has said it's an accurate accent, which is like fine. Yeah. Similar with Gambit, like everyone complained like, oh, that's not accurate. Meanwhile, people who like actually had Cajun accents were like, no, it's actually 100% accurate. So I would say if they would get her for Rogue, tone down. I understand if it's not accurate. I don't give a fuck. I want to like enjoy a movie and not wanting to want to go deaf halfway through because her fucking voice makes me want to fucking blow my brains out. So yes, I get it. It's accurate. Cool. Not just because it's accurate doesn't mean it sounds appealing to the audience. So if I would say this, Ms. Qualley, you're very talented, extremely talented. If this is true, I don't think it is, but if it is true, and she gets cast tomorrow, please don't go insane with the southern accent. Please just tone it down. Okay. That's
well,
all
I'm sure
I
that will
ask.
depend. It will depend on what the director wants, right? So that's maybe not so much like her choice. It's more it's a collaborative decision, right? A creative decision. But the other movie I was thinking of that she was a part of last year was Drive Away Dolls, which was a pretty good movie. And of course, The Substance. So I wouldn't mind seeing. I think she would be a great fit. I think in terms of age profile, and then obviously she's got the acting chops. This would be a big franchise for her to take part in, and she'll probably be tied into something big. That's probably gonna go for like at least a decade, if not more. I can't imagine Rogue will be like a one-off character in the MCU. They might want to even spin her off into doing like her own TV show, or maybe even a solo movie. I always felt like Rogue was one of the more underutilized characters in the Fox X-Men universe. So hopefully we'll get more of Rogue, and then if Margaret Qualley's playing her, then that'd be great. That would be a great pick, in my opinion, too. So, sorry, Variety wants to give us ads. We don't want ads, but what we do want is Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which now has a streaming release date. It's going to be coming to Paramount Plus on February 18th, John. That is literally tomorrow. Are you going to be turning Paramount Plus on the moment it arrives and watch this again?
No, I watched it twice. I think that's enough. Like, it's a very good movie. I loved it a lot, but I don't, unless it's like an amazing movie or I haven't seen it in a while, then I'll watch it. This isn't one of those kind of like, oh, it just got on streaming, now I have to watch it again. No, I'm not like that. I like to, because especially when there's like a trillion other things for me to fucking watch, then I will watch that stuff that I am backed up on instead of something I have seen before. Unless it's that good. But like, for instance, like the first 2 Paddington movies, I had not seen those before in preparation for the 3rd movie. So I was like, let me watch those. And I did. And I enjoyed them. So, try to watch new things, guys.
Yeah. Well, speaking of new things, or I guess old things that will become new again, Ted Lasso season 4 is on the horizon. It hasn't got an official green light yet, But Bill Lawrence, is one of the executive producers, one of the creators of Ted Lasso, alongside Scrubs, and a Scrubs reboot is on the way as well. So he's recently said that the writers' room is coming together very soon. He was recently interviewed, and he said, well, the first thing is on an interview asking my wife if she'll do the show whenever she has time. And if, luckily for him, his wife responded, of course. So he said that we're in the process of, and the cool thing, they're putting the writers together. So they are working on getting the writers' room together for Scrubs, which is being brought back over at 20th Century Television, which used to be, the original show was at ABC Studios, but ABC Studios is now part of 20th Century Television at Disney. So, while Bill Lawrence has a overall deal with Warner Brothers, this is like an exception where the studio's letting him go work with 20th Century, so he can bring Scrubs back to life. But then he was also asked about Ted Lasso coming back, and this is what he said. I leave all Ted Lasso questions, as does everybody else, to our fearless leader, that is Jason Sudeikis, Ted Lasso himself. He's around in New York City for the SNL 50th anniversary special, so I bet you he's somewhere right now being asked the same question, and I bet you his answer is better than mine. So what are your thoughts on both fronts? Do you think that Scrubs being brought back is a good idea? Another revival for an iconic sitcom? But also, what are your thoughts on, him just kind of deferring any questions about Ted Lasso season 4 to Jason Sudeikis?
Don't care, didn't watch either.
You did not watch Ted Lasso?
Nope.
Wow. And
I know it's the greatest show ever. I know everyone says it's amazing.
It's one of the best shows of the past
10 years. I was gonna watch it like after like it ended, because it was supposed to end with season 3, and I'm like, okay, I'll give it like a couple of years. So that's exactly what I did with Breaking Bad, because everybody and their fucking mother told me it's like the fucking most amazing show ever. So I didn't watch it out of spite. And then I watched the show and I'm like, it is great, but like so I wanted to wait. And then they're like, nope, we're doing season 4 now. So I'm like, okay, then I won't watch it until everyone shuts the fuck up about it. So if you want to get me into a show, don't be an asshole about it, because then I might watch it.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb's saying, hey, you haven't seen Sopranos either, to be fair.
Yeah, I haven't seen The Sopranos.
You have some big gaps in your knowledge base there, man. You gotta fill those gaps.
But you know what? I do want to get into Star Trek. I finally have Paramount Plus, so I'll divert the next 10 years of my life to watching every fucking episode of those goddamn shows.
But yeah, I mean, Caleb's question, Ted Lasso season 3 was sort of meant to be a finale for the series, but then they quickly changed their minds, and then when they started promoting it, like the physical media version, as well as of course on Apple TV Plus, now instead of saying series finale, it was season finale. So it looks like we are getting another one, and it's headed to a green light soon. The last time we talked about it like a few months ago, it was in the works, so we'll see. Captain America we haven't reviewed yet, Ron, so we will get to that in a little bit, so do stick around. We're getting through quick hits, and then we're gonna get into the movie reviews. Sony Pictures Classics has bought Jodie Foster's murder mystery movie V Privy for North America and Latin America. This is coming from European film market, John. What are your thoughts on this? Excited for another Jodie Foster outing, or you just don't care until you see the trailer? All right.
I don't care, period.
We'll see when the trailer comes out. I don't know much about the movie, but I thought it was interesting. Jodie Foster on a nice run with True Detective recently, but The Pit also on a nice run. It's now been renewed for a second season at Max, starring Noah Wyle and
the
of course,
sequel, but kind of sequel to
ER. Yeah.
The not sequel to ER in a legal sense, but technically the sequel to ER in a non-legal sense.
Yep. Well, I mean, the show is doing well enough. It's not even done with this first season. It's like halfway through, and they've already renewed it, so that's a good sign. It's a series that is on Max. It's a cheaper show than most series you find on streaming services, and it works really well. And according to some medical professionals, it's probably the most accurate, look at an ER facility that we have ever gotten on television.
That's what ER was. That's considered by many to be one of the most accurate shows of all time. I don't know what is considered the most accurate, but I'm pretty sure ER is the most. It's pretty much up there, like at least top 3.
Well, it looks like The Pit is making room for itself in that genre and category. So we'll see. It's going to be around for at least one more season. Season 1 is still ongoing, so you can watch it on Max. Sharon Stone is in talks for Euphoria season 3. The veteran actress would be joining an A-list cast that already includes, of course, Zendaya, Jacob Elordi, Sydney Sweeney, and Alexa Demie. What are your thoughts on Sharon Stone potentially joining Euphoria season 3, John?
Don't care. Don't watch the show.
Cool. You can't go wrong with adding talent. Zendaya,
Sharon
of course,
Stone
is coming back. Sharon Stone.
I mean,
one of the
greatest
most talented
scene ever put to
actresses.
film with Basic Instinct, but that's kind of it. So
Wasn't she gonna be in the Blue Beetle movie, and then things went wrong in the
yeah, and
negotiations,
then she got Susan Sarandon took over.
Susan Sarandon took over, but yeah. Hey, you know what? Sharon Stone, if she joins Euphoria, another talented actor. The new season is starting to film soon. We were talking about it last week, actually. Kate Winslet, on the other hand, is set to make her directorial debut with Goodbye June for Netflix. She will also act and produce the touching yet humorous drama about a fractured group of siblings, which will star Toni Collette, Johnny Flynn, and Andrea Riseborough, Timothy Spall, and Helen Mirren. So started cast. It's gonna be on Netflix. That's the only thing that worries me, that it's on Netflix. But Goodbye June, Kate Netflix directing her directorial debut. What are your thoughts on, again, the cast, the idea of the film, the premise, and
could be interesting.
Do you think she can make for a good director?
Could be
after
interesting.
All these years?
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. As long as she's nothing like, James Cameron, who she hated for years and then came back to do Way of Water. So I don't know, but I mean, good for her. I don't know if I'll watch it, but it sounds interesting.
It does sound interesting. We'll see. The only thing that worries me about it's a Netflix movie, and those don't always pan out, so we'll see. But hey, Benedict Cumberbatch has replaced Tom Hardy in Cary Fukunaga's crime thriller Blood on Snow, which is set to star also alongside Benedict Cumberbatch, Eva Green, Emma Laird, and Ben Mendelsohn. They're gonna now also, obviously, the lead of the movie is Aaron Taylor Johnson. It's an adaptation of a Joe Nesbo novel. Are you excited to see this? I mean, you lose one great actor, you get another, and it's already got a star-studded A-list cast.
Fuck that! You had me at Eva Green. I'll watch it, even though Cary Fukunaga is a prick and a piece of shit, and a predator. I don't give a fuck. I'll watch it for Eva Green alone. That's all I need.
I agree with you. You can't go wrong with Eva Green. Still doing great things, and Ben
Best
Mendelsohn
Bond
was
girl, maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
It's up there. She's up there. That movie to me is the best Bond movie.
Oh,
ever
yeah.
made, so I suppose Eva Green would be at the top of the list. And if you go up, but the transitive property.
She's in her 50s now, and she looks doesn't look a
she
day
doesn't
over
look
35.
She does not look it. But
she's just immaculate, just amazing. But also, not just saying she's only her beauty, she's actually a really great actress. She's very good, and I've liked her in anything I've seen her. Even in the lesser movies, she's always done a really good job.
So,
but Benedict Cumberbatch is good. Ben Mendelsohn's good. Aaron Taylor Johnson's great. They're all good. I don't know who Emma Laird is. I've probably seen her in something, but I don't know the name.
I feel like I've heard her name before. Ron saying the best Bond girl was in GoldenEye. Who was in GoldenEye? I'm forgetting. What was that the one with
that was one of Sean Connery.
Denise Richards or
no?
Michelle
That's or wait, are you saying GoldenEye or Goldfinger? Sorry, I thought you said Goldfinger.
No, GoldenEye.
GoldenEye was.
That's what Ron's saying. GoldenEye.
GoldenEye, wasn't that Morena Baccarin, or am I thinking of something else? Denise Richards was Tomorrow Never Dies or World Is Not Enough. I don't remember which one. I know
GoldenEye was a great game, Man of Steel, Magnolia.
No, okay.
By the way, Antonio in the chat. Hello, Antonio. But anyway, before we get lost in the GoldenEye conversation, Cumberbatch is replacing Tom Hardy because of some scheduling issues. Tom Hardy was set to not only star in the movie but also produce it, but apparently scheduling issues came along the way. So now Benedict Cumberbatch, has replaced him. The movie
definitely
starts
a weird
filming at the end of this month in Latvia.
Sure. I can't think of
I'm somebody's gonna Ron. Why don't you let us know who
Hardy.
the actual Bond girl is in GoldenEye? Because I totally forgot.
Fucking look it up.
He's talking about Natalia, dude. Why don't you stop teasing and just give us the name?
It was
just give us the name.
So Famke Janssen was one of the Bond girls, and then the other one was Isabella Scorupco.
Okay,
as
Famke
Natalia.
Janssen. up there, but I still think Eva Green, just overall performance, the quality of the movie, yeah, up there.
Hi, Lenny.
Oh, Lenny's in the chat. Hey, Lenny.
She's waving.
Welcome on in. Hey, welcome on in, Lenny. Fiona was here earlier. I think she might have fallen asleep.
Oh my god. Okay,
But,
this ain't gonna be a quick hit. I have a lot to fucking say about this, and I'm angry about it. Okay, but like, say the story.
Okay. All right. I'll let you have your piece, but I just want to say this is okay. This is the first look at Nicholas Galatazine on the set of Masters of the Universe. He's playing He-Man. The first impression that I had from this is he put on a bit of muscle. He's got broad shoulders. I don't know how much muscle is under that shirt, but it looks like he's packing more than he was in his previous movie. What are your thoughts, John?
I don't give a fuck about that because it's like, why in the fuck are you making it on Earth again? Like, the reason Canon did that is because they were on the verge of bankruptcy. They were literally filming the end sequence with Skeletor and He-Man while they were taking down the set because they had no more money. It was on the brink of bankruptcy. That's why they had to fucking film on Earth, and they had to do the whole stupid fish out of water story. You don't have that problem now. You have money. Why the fuck are you making it that he's on Earth? I mean, don't get me wrong. The sword, the gray skull score, the fucking looks great. It looks great prop. And they have the pink like Adam has. It's not a vest, but it's a shirt. Like, and he looks like He-Man. But it's like, why the fuck are you making? I want to see it in that fucking, like, I don't know much about Masters of the Universe. I know a little bit. I watched like maybe 1 or 2 episodes to like research for something. Like, the sword looks great. Stop making I thought we were like done with this like 30 years ago with the fucking fish out of water fucking, it has to take place on Earth because dumbasses who don't know the source material are gonna get confused, so they have to make it on Earth. They're doing that with the fucking Smurfs again. Like, they're 4 movies in. These movies have made less and less money. Why the fuck are you doing? I'm so fucking sick of the fucking, like, that can work sparingly, but like, it can like maybe like Enchanted, it works because the whole thing of that was like a meta parody of like princess movies. Like, that was the whole point. Like, they were spinning it on its head of like, oh, let's take her into the real world and experience real love instead of like the fairy tale where you meet the guy and have to marry him in under 2 seconds. Like, that's like the whole thing with that. It's just, no, they're copying every other fish out of fucking water. They're copying the original movie. Like, here's the thing. You have this illustrious backstory. You have 2, like, in terms of the original continuity shows, you have these 2 big, you had both She-Ra and He-Man. You had like you had the toys, you had the comics, you had this, you had that. You have so much stuff to choose from, and make a great like fantasy movie, especially with how the Kevin Smith show, both of those shows fucking royally butt-fucked He-Man. This could have been something. And it just, like, why? Why are you doing this again? Now, like, my friend who was actually pretty excited for this, especially when they finally got rid of Noah Centineo as He-Man. Jesus Christ, that would have been terrible. He was actually genuinely excited for this, and then when it was when he saw the set photos, he's like, nope, I have no interest now. And I can guarantee you that so many people who are fans of He-Man saw the same pictures and are like, yep, nope, we're not doing this anymore. Because nobody wants to fucking see like, nobody likes the original movie. Nobody fucking likes the stupid original 80s. Like, maybe as sort of like an occult or nostalgia thing, but nobody fucking likes the original movie. Why do you want to double down on one of the worst aspects of the original movie? The reason to remake something is to make it better by looking at the mistakes of the original and maybe making something better if you're remaking a bad movie. Why are you going back and doing the worst shit and making just another shitty movie? Just like, people want to see this character done right, especially with like the 3 shows that were made recently that were bad. Why do this? It's like what am I saying? Is it stupid to remake? Yeah, like it is stupid to remake that movie. Like, don't get me wrong, there was a lot of production problems, and like I know that some people have like some affinity towards it because maybe they watched it as a kid, all that shit. So, you know, I just don't get it. I mean, like I don't get it.
The one thing that this doesn't tell us is how much of the movie takes place off world, right? So maybe this is just part of the movie and a small part of it, but it's an incomplete picture. I guess we'll see. It's not very impressive, but you know, like the cast that they've assembled is impressive, and hopefully, you know, with the director being who he is, maybe we'll get something better than what we've gotten before. But yeah, the first signs are not that great. But look, set photos can often be deceiving because they're not really telling us what the movie's gonna ultimately look like. So I hear you, but you know, let's see where things go from here. You know, in other news, Marshawn Lynch has been cast in Euphoria season 3. Of course, Sharon Stone is in talks to join, but Marshawn Lynch has already joined. What are your thoughts?
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
As is Marshawn Lynch. And then last but not least, happy birthday to Jeremy Allen White of The Bear.
Happy birthday.
Celebrating
you're a
his
piece
34th.
of shit, but you're a great actor, so good for you, man. Yeah, fucking cheated on his wife. Fuck that guy. But like, he's a great actor, so you know.
Yeah. Bridget saying Marshawn stay doing side quests. And yet Ron wishing happy birthday to Jeremy Allen White. So there we go. That brings us to a close on the quick hits. So with that, we're gonna close out the music. And as always, of course, let us know what you thought about the quick hits. Did you like him? Did you hate him? Which piece of news was your favorite? Are you excited about Spider-Man 4? Are you excited about, you know, Christopher Nolan adding Mia Goth to the list of cast members? Let us know down below. If you're not watching live, if you are watching live, hit the like button, or even if you aren't watching live, hit the like button and the notification bell. If you aren't subscribed, hit the subscribe button. But right now, we're going to switch focus to the movie reviews of the week. So we're going to start off with the first movie of the week, and that, of course, is Paddington in Peru. Paddington in Peru is the third movie in the franchise, potentially making it one of the, if not the greatest movie trilogy of all time. We're going to find out because John is going to tell us about it. So, John, What did you think about this movie? How fun was it? Did you enjoy it? Did it blow your mind? Was it disappointing? I doubt it's disappointing, but I want to hear what you have to say.
I really, really, really enjoyed it. It was funny, though, because, like, I don't know. I don't want to say funny, but, like, it was just like, because I'm like, I just was seeing a lot of kids movies because I saw Dogman and then I saw this. It's just like I'm interested in, like, I'm not like seeing this, but I'm sure like people get like give me like a side eye. Why is this weird fat guy fucking all alone seeing a kids movie? But anyway, but I really love this movie. I mean, Ben Whishaw is always great as Paddington. I think he nails like that innocence, that naivete. I think you know, Hugh Bonneville, the kids, they do great work. Emily Mortimer is good as Mary Brown, although I do think Sally Hawkins is better. I think she was better. I don't know why she exited out of this. I don't think she had like scheduling conflicts or anything. I think she just like didn't want to do this movie. So like I don't get why, but Emily Mortimer is good. And then fucking, you know, the kid, the son, it's just like last movie he was like, oh, he was like kind of kid, and now he's just like full on adult. Like puberty's a bitch, I guess. But you know, good. And I love how like the girl looks like she hasn't aged. Meanwhile, the kid just went from like little to, hey man, how you doing? Like that kind of thing. But I think yeah, you know, I will say in terms of like ranking, I would say it's 2, 3, 1 for me. 1 is not a bad, like the first Paddington, not a bad movie, but it's the most like generic out of the 3. But the thing is, the reason why it works so well is because Paddington is such a fucking amazing character, and he's so likable, and he's so like wonderful, and you just can't help but smile when he's on screen. And the same thing here, like it's like this grand adventure, and I think Paul King didn't return to do this because the whole thing was like it kept getting delayed. Like, because initially it was like they were gonna do it, and then Paul King went off to do Wonka, and then for some reason he finished Wonka, it got released, and then he just didn't come back to this, even though it was filming after the fact. I don't know. But I think the new director did a really good job. I thought, in terms of the big like A-list guest stars, quote unquote, of the movie of Olivia Colman and Antonio Banderas were great. There was definitely a good amount of twists in the movie. It was just like an overall really, really, really fun experience. Like, people love Paddington, and it's already made its money back. It's made over 130 million this weekend, and it was made on a budget of 90 million. But it's just like they have their Sound of Music reference. I thought that was really funny.
I was gonna say that looks exactly like the Sound of Music.
Yeah, that was the intent. She even does the move where she's like, oh, the hills are like the whole like spinning around, but it's like but it's done in a funny way. It's like awkward and weird because like the grass is lumpy and all that. So it was very amusing. I thought Olivia Colman did a great job. I thought Antonio Banderas was really funny.
Interesting fun fact.
Oh, that's cool.
Jeremy Clarkson. I'm guessing you mean Jeremy
In
Clarkson
fact,
of Top Gear and the Grand Tour?
I think so. In fact, be right back. Dan,
okay.
Be your funny self.
Okay. Well, I mean, be my funny self. The cast looks amazing. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm excited to go see it. Like John said, the movie's already made its money back. You can't really go wrong in Paddington. Most of these movies, like he said, the first one was pretty generic. I had more fun with it than maybe he did. John was catching up on these movies last week, so he can go see this one in the movie theater. I hope I made a good choice by going to see Captain America Brave New World, which we'll be reviewing next. But yeah, I mean, the cast is star-studded. It looked fantastic.
And here he is. Yeah. This was my I don't know who got this from. I think my sister, when she was in London studying abroad, I think she got this, or somebody else got. But I don't know. But this is like a Paddington Bear from London, so get pumped about that, Lenny. But he's a little dusty though. But yeah, we do have our little Paddington. This wasn't our original Paddington. We had a couple of the books, and there was a bear that came with those. I'm sure if we look it up, we could find it. But where he had the reverse colors. For some reason, he had a blue hat and a red coat. I don't know why, but that was very funny. But yeah, here's our Paddington. There he is. Hello. Unfortunately, he doesn't come with a marmalade sandwich, but we have him right here. I wanted to give him a cameo. He was very hello. But yeah, there he is. So I can't believe I forgot that until we were on screen. But it's just like, it's such an endearing movie. It's just like, if you can't wait until Superman and you really want an endearing, hopeful, moral character, Paddington in Peru is the way to go. It's just like, it's just one of those movies you just have to experience it for yourself, because it's just like all the other Paddington work, like the other two movies, all the shows, the books. It's just like whatever you expect from Paddington, it's here. And the thing is, I love how they don't try to reinvent the wheel. Yeah, he's an innocent character. They don't try to go beyond that. And he's great. Like, he's just one of those characters that like improves all the people around him. He just makes everybody like amazing and better. And, it's through one marmalade sandwich at a time. And, that's great, because we need that. All of us, because when the lights begin to dim anyway. But yeah, also Haley Atwell's in it for a hot sec. She's maybe in it for like 5 minutes, not even. So I'm like, why are you here? But yeah, I mean, it's what you expect. Like, they go to like the whole thing, the whole story is that He's a good bear. He's not a good boy. He's a good bear. But his Aunt Lucy goes missing, and originally it was she's like lonely, and so Paddington's like, let's cheer her up, let's go to Peru, and so the Browns and him go to Peru, and then she goes missing, so they have to like find her, and it's like, oh, where are they? What's the thing? And there's like a whole bunch of twists and turns in regards to who the villain is. Oh, is this person really the villain, or are they, kind of gray? And you have all the recognizable characters there. You got Julie Walters and Hugh Bonneville, and it's just overall a great experience. Like it's a movie that you could go by yourself, take the kids to. I know movies are harder and harder to go to by every passing day, but yeah, I think this was overall great. The only thing, I will say, Olivia Colman singing she wasn't a bad singer, it's just the song was kind of cringy. It was a little bit too awkward, and I think like the second half of the second act was a bit slow, and then it like really amps up like in the third act. But yeah, overall this was a really, really great movie, and I cannot recommend it enough. So if you don't want to see Captain America 4, then by all means go watch Paddington in Peru, or wait until the monkey comes out, which isn't wholesome, but like I'm just saying, like, since I've heard Captain America's bad, so like go watch this instead. Just waiting for Dan to come back, but I don't know what else to talk about because I'm kind of done. But I give it like a solid like 8.5 out of 10. Like I would say the Paddington 2 is the best one. I just think that like that one hit the most notes. It was the most interesting. It was the least like generic out of the three. But yeah, Paddington, it was a great movie. Yeah, as Eric said, it was a great movie. But yeah, it's a good time, and I mean, who doesn't love Paddington? Like if you don't like him, he will give you a hard stare. Because when people forget their manners, you shall get a hard stare. Although this one comes with rain boots. I don't think he ever had rain boots, but I could be wrong on that. Anyway, I mean, I'm not like a Paddington expert or anything. I'm just saying, but he does have his duffel coat and he does have his hat. But yeah, I do. I mean, I watched some of the show a little bit. I think I maybe read a couple of the books, but like Paddington is just such a nice, wholesome boy, nice, wholesome bear. So go watch it. Go. Don't stop watching the review. Go watch it right now, even though it's like late at night. Go watch it. No, I'm just kidding. But I do have have one funny story though. So I did read that there were like post-credit scenes. They're not worth it. Like I would say the mid-credit one is worth it. The end credit one is not worth it. But I was leaving the theater and I was looking because I try to like clean up like for like the people don't throw their trash out because people suck. Like, guys, fucking throw your trash out. Like, don't be a dickhead. But I was noticing, yeah, I'm sure it would have been. So I was like noticing, I looked down in the row ahead of me and I see some popcorn. So I'm like, okay, I'll pick up the popcorn. And then I see something else. And I'm looking, I'm like, that can't be it. So I grab my stuff. I grab the popcorn and I'm like, somebody, I swear, I wish I got a picture because no one's gonna fucking believe me.
I don't know where you're going with this, but
somebody brought a cup of soup to the movie. Like it was a Panera cup. Like somebody bought like Panera bread soup and brought it to the movie. And they didn't even finish it. It was broccoli and cheddar soup. I saw it. I smelt it. Like you could fucking smell it from my seat. I was like, like my parents have been going to the movies for over 50 years. And even they were like, That's a new one. Who go?
I
Okay, first
do they
off,
not have
first
soup as
off,
like a thing at the movie theater? I don't know.
no, who fucking eats soup at a movie? Like chicken nuggets, pizza, French fries, hot dogs, like that make or pretzel, popcorn, obviously, candy, obviously, but like the whole thing of like you have to eat it with a spoon and you have to see it. It's liquid. Well, unless you're like eating stew, but like it's a liquid. I was just like losing my fucking mind. Like I was just racking. I was in the car and I was just like, who the fuck? Not only
I don't know.
okay,
Maybe
so it's
they
not
just
even
were
like
hungry and they wanted to
okay,
like
no. But here's the thing. It's
hide
definitely an
themselves
old
over.
person thing because I said that to my mom. I was like, broccoli and cheddar soup. She's like, that's an old person soup. So I'm like, okay. I mean, there were a lot of old people there since it was in the middle of the day, but the kids were off. But I'm assuming like parents were at work. So like grandparents, I assume, took their grandkids to see the movie. So yeah, nobody's fucking like jerking off to Paddington. I mean, I'm sure there are, but like, no, that's not where I was going. Anyway, but like, it reminded me of that guy of like where the guy who went to go see Cars 2 and he brought a can of beans with him. It's just as fucking weird. But I was just like losing my mind over it. Like, who brings soup? Like, it's not practical at all. It's hot. You can only eat it like really quickly. It's just like,
well,
and you don't even finish. Because here's the thing. Here's the unofficial rule. If you're bringing outside food to a movie, throw it out. Because that's like, if you bring outside food, it's not like you're getting, it's just like, then the poor workers, I'm sure it does. I'm not a big soup guy, but I'm sure the workers are probably going to get reamed out like, oh, people are bringing outside food into a movie because the workers don't care. I could like bring like a steak dinner inside with me and retail workers will not give a flying fuck what you bring into the movie theater. I can guarantee that. I've met people that are like, yeah, we don't care. But the thing is, the CEOs and the corporations care. So it's like,
yeah. Well,
no,
look,
no, it wasn't.
Okay, we have to move on. But
I'm sorry, like I was just crazy. Racking my brain, and I had to say this to the world. I had to say this to the world.
You let us know, guys, what you think is that a crazy story? Have you seen worse? Soup in a movie theater that
at least throw it out. Like Jesus Christ, fucking throw it out like a
just throw it out. It's just a mess for somebody else to clean. But let us know in the comments down below what you thought about Paddington 2 or Paddington 3 rather, Paddington in Peru. It's rated really, really well. Both critics and audiences love it. So let us know what you thought about it. And John, of course, loved it as well. But in the meantime, we're going to move on. We have another movie to talk about, Captain America: Brave New World. I am excited to review this movie. And notice I said I'm excited to review the movie. I'm not necessarily saying I was, in love with the movie. I was excited to see it because I was genuinely just very curious to see how the movie would play out. I went and saw it on Friday. And, we wanted to do a review on Friday, but, we didn't have a chance to. So here we are today. And let's start with just my overall thoughts. And if you guys are watching live and you're looking for DC stuff, we're getting into DC right after this. But I wanted to review Captain America: Brave New World. John has got the popcorn bucket. I almost got myself one. I saw one there.
I was shocked they had it. I thought they were going to be all out. But look at this. It's made of real metal, too.
Is it? It's metallic? Okay. Is it vibranium? No, okay. It's
not vibranium because vibranium ain't real. But, and if you're wondering where the popcorn thing goes, there it is. And
okay, you know what? That is clever. That is very clever.
It's supposed to like interlock, but the mechanism is kind of shit. But like, I'm not gonna eat popcorn out of this thing. So, Anyway, sorry. I just wanted to show that off. I'll let Dan talk because he let me talk about my stupid broccoli and cheddar story. So I haven't seen it. Looked like shit, but Dan, you go.
Well, so obviously, I saw Captain America: Brave New World, and I thought it was, like it says down there, a middling new chapter in the MCU. Here's why. Because the movie starts off with an action sequence like most Marvel movies do, and you immediately get to see, what this Captain America is like. A little hard to believe that he can fly, at supersonic speeds, land on his knees, even though they say his suit is made of vibranium. I'm like, is that gonna protect his knees from the G-forces? And he's not a superhero. He didn't take the serum, so there's some things about with believability that you have to sort of like let go of very early in the movie. Some of the stuff that the shield does, like when he throws it, and like Spider-Man Once Upon says, that thing does not follow the laws of physics at all. And like we kind of were used to Steve Rogers Captain America shield. Well, it's the same shield, I suppose, but like doing things that didn't feel realistic. They take it a step further in this movie, where you're like, really? Like it still comes back to him. And like, anyway, so the action sequences were pretty sharp. I think a lot of people talking about the movie will tell you that the action sequences were good. Some of the hand-to-hand combat was rough around the edges, but whereas a lot of people were like, it was slow and it looked bad and stuff. I enjoyed the hand-to-hand combat. I think where the problem was when because people are comparing it to obviously the Winter Soldier, because it feels like it's a Winter Soldier-esque movie. And when it came to the action sequences, the big action sequences, like the fighter jet sequence over the Indian Ocean was fantastic. I think probably one of the best sequences in the whole movie. Most of the Red Hulk fight was really, really good until the very end, which I was like, okay, you could really tell they shot some stuff on green screen and maybe there was part of the reshoots. But as far as like the stuff in the beginning of the movie and really in general, like they're in that dark hallway where like the chief of security for the president is there too. Shira Haas plays the character. I forget what the name of the character is. She's basically a Black Widow. She's Israeli, and they don't really give her a sort of a costume. But anyway, like in general, the hand-to-hand combat sequences, I feel like the editing wasn't quite at the level of Captain America Brave New World, because part of the reason why the fight sequences in that movie looked so good were not just because this fight choreography was good, but in the Winter Soldier they were cutting around at a pace that was like just bang 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 bang. Like it wasn't too hectic so that it felt like Taken, where you're like, oh my god, I don't know what's going on. Like it didn't disorient you, but it kept things moving. It wasn't like they stuck on one shot, because the fight choreography itself in a lot of places wasn't like the most impressive thing ever, but the way they shot it was made it look even better than it was. And obviously like the elevator fight sequence, when the Winter Soldier and Captain America are fighting, right before Nick Fury gets assassinated almost, that like those sequences are still some of the best fight sequences in all of MCU history. This movie doesn't live up to that, but it's good. I enjoyed a lot of the fight sequences. I thought like some of the editing was choppy. Like I said, it was jagged, I think is one word I described it. Like when I walked out of the theater, I was talking about the movie and I was like, the pieces didn't quite fit as well. It wasn't as slick. It wasn't as smooth. It didn't quite, him and Haw the way that the Winter Soldier did. Like the pacing wasn't perfect. Like it felt like the story slowed down at times when you wanted it to keep going at a brisk pace, and then sometimes it felt like, okay, so is the movie over yet? No, there's more. Oh, and then there's predictable elements, like the leader was pretty one note for the most part. Like his plan for a character is meant to be so smart he can predict all the probabilities was very unimpressive, because this whole big thing was, spoiler alert, to get Harrison Ford's Thunderbolt Ross to Hulk out. That was his big plan. You know what, Loki had that plan with Bruce Banner's Hulk, but it wasn't the big plan. It was just a plan so he can escape and hopefully help break the Avengers apart. When he was caught up on the helicarrier, that's when he wanted Hulk to Hulk out. And that was pretty blatantly obvious. They played at it. It wasn't like a hidden plan. Here, basically, that ends up being the big plan that the leader has at the end, his big finale, because he wants to, get Thunderbolt Ross disgraced, which he does succeed in doing. But it's just, and then Ron saying Ruth was unnecessary, like, the Shira Haas character. She was probably one of the very few, I think she was the closest thing to a female lead in the movie. For an MCU that has embraced strong female characters over the last few years, and in general, like you look at one of those sequences in Endgame where you had like the all the big female characters and like all the superheroes, including of course you had Wasp in there and Wanda and all the big ones, the Wakandan, I'm forgetting the Wakandan guard characters, but anyway, this movie it was a very male lead heavy movie, so I felt like in that way Ruth kind of balanced things out, but at the same time they didn't give her much to do, and a lot of what she was there to do in the movie, or I guess what was left after maybe whatever they cut out, it felt like if they didn't have her there, some of the other characters were doing the same thing. It's like she was running the same investigation in parallel to Captain America, and Captain America was always there a step before she was. So she shows up, and it was like, okay, so why are you here? And I'm guessing that even when they were having that fight sequence in under Camp Echo 1 in that tunnel, if she wasn't there, they would have still fought their way through the bad guys, like, you know, Captain America and Falcon. So, like Ron said, you know, and then Ruth, it was just not necessary. Red Hulk, Jalen saying easily the best part. The plot was rushed and the leader did not impress me, said Ron. I don't know if the plot was rushed. It felt like they simplified things from what was there before, and obviously they tried to make things more grounded because, you know, replacing like the Serpent Society characters like that Seth Rollins played, which was in the behind the scenes photos, with Sidewinder that Giancarlo Esposito plays. Giancarlo Esposito did the best that he could with what he was given, but honestly, he wasn't given much to do. And quite frankly, the whole thing about how he's involved in all of this, and a lot of it being explained through dialogue where he's like, you will see me again, and, you know, I will not let you survive, like, you know, just threatening each other, him and Captain America. That scene felt like, why are we getting another big exposition scene halfway through the movie? Like, there was a lot of exposition dumps. I'm sure you guys have heard that from other reviews. Some of it was necessary because this movie relies a lot on events from a movie that was like The Incredible Hulk in 2008. That's like 16, 17 years ago. Like, not a lot of people remember that movie because not a lot of people saw that movie. But the Red Hulk was definitely one of the best parts of the movie. I definitely don't think the CGI was lacking at all for that. That whole fight sequence was pretty cool. Unfortunately, like, you know, Batman v Superman did with Doomsday, they gave away a lot of the big moments with the Red Hulk because he wasn't in there for very long, which we also knew. But like, they gave a lot of that away in the trailer, so it wasn't like you're getting something like, oh my god, it's Red Hulk. And, you know, it wasn't a surprise. I feel like they could have kept that back, but, you know, they were so desperate to get people to come see this movie that they needed to do that, I suppose. So, like what they were doing with BVS. So I understand that. When you look at the new Falcon, Danny Ramirez playing the new Falcon, Joaquin Torres, much more, you know, grounded than the equivalent character in the comics. He has like basically the same suit that Sam Wilson used to have versus, like, you know, biological wings in the comics. So I enjoyed it. The wit was there. I thought, you know, he made the character his own, and well, at least, you know, the Falcon moniker his own. There's a little some cheesiness around it, but it's standard Marvel humor. So I was okay with that. The suit I'm okay with, for the most part. Like, you know, it evolves throughout the movie. I was wondering if the blue suit is also made of vibranium or it's just the wings, because the white suit, it seems like, was made of vibranium, which you see earlier in the movie. Red Wing, I think, which is like his assistant, the AI assistant wing, like the drones, those worked well. The plot was meant to be like a political thriller, so, like, you know, they're basically ultimately what ends up happening. Again, spoiler warning, I'll put this up so that you know, I mean, you guys are watching this, so you probably already know, but generally the plot was that the leader was trying to pit the US against Japan over, you know, control of the adamantium that was discovered in the celestial mass, you know, conveniently named celestial mass. There's no other explanation as to why they call it a celestial mass, because it was a celestial that froze up halfway through being born through the Earth's core. But anyway, basically it was, they were trying to pit Japan and US against each other, and, you know, almost like a war. And it would be, you know, while Thunderbolt Ross was president, who was like, I was a wartime general, I'm gonna be a wartime president, which some of the dialogue was really clunky in this movie. I'm like, people don't talk that way all the time. So there's that. But, you know, obviously the plan fails, and, you know, Captain America saves the day. The one thing I will say, despite the fact that the movie felt clunky and you could tell that they, you know, they had to kind of put the pieces together after they went in and did like 20 plus days of reshoots, it still worked overall well enough for me to say. I mean, by the way, Carl Lumbly originally saw him. I first saw him in Supergirl, where he played Martian Manhunter's dad. Great actor, you know, and perfect fit for this movie. He really makes a mark in this film, and I enjoyed the movie. I just was disappointed that there was a lot more potential that I felt like was, you know, left just, you know, on the floor. Like, I don't know how much they cut out. Clearly they cut out enough that, you know, that they were able to put in a whole new character like Giancarlo Esposito. But when you look at the overall impression that this movie leaves on you, I believe that Sam Wilson is the new Captain America. Like this was the star turn for Anthony Mackie, and I think he succeeds in being a good Captain America. Like, let me go to one of the other things I wanted to kind of point out here. The best line in the movie is when, spoiler alert, Bucky Barnes shows up, who apparently is running for Senate. I'm like, go figure. He's come a long way from being a fugitive wanted by Interpol and all of the world's police to running for Senate. We'll see how far that goes, because by the time you get to Thunderbolts, it doesn't look like he's running for Senate anymore. But at least for now, he is, and he's in a scene with Sam Wilson, and he's like, "Look, Steve was who people looked up to. You are who people aspire to be." And I thought that was probably one of the best written lines in the whole movie, and a movie that had a lot of badly written dialogue. So, and it works. By the end of the movie, I believe that he is Captain America. I'm not like longing to go back to Steve Rogers, even though obviously it'd be a welcome return, and we probably will get Steve Rogers back in some form or fashion in the Secret Wars movie or Doomsday. But I think as far as this MCU, 616 MCU, the Sacred Timeline, I believe it. And again, one of the big things was Thunderbolt Ross wanted, Sam Wilson to restart the Avengers, to get the band back together again, which it just felt like they kept mentioning it, but we'll see what role he plays. I guess, does that mean that he's a big part of Doomsday? We know he's going to be in Doomsday, but does that mean like that's what the premise of that movie is, that he's starting to put the Avengers back together and then Dr. Doomsday shows up? I don't know how that's going to play out, but we'll see. Obviously, the audiences like it more than the critics. It's split down the middle. It's one of the lowest scores for MCU movies ever, 50%. It got a B- cinema score, which I believe is the lowest ever that we have ever gotten for an MCU movie. It was projected to make 90 million plus at the opening box office domestically and 200 million globally. Now, the numbers that we ultimately got were pretty impressive relative to that projection, because it earned $40 million on its opening day alone, which already, put it in good company as far as other Captain America movies go. It's the second highest opening for a Captain America film, only behind Civil War. It was a higher opening than Captain America the Winter Soldier, which opened to 36.9 million, and then Captain America the First Avenger, which was 25.7. The First Avenger is maybe not a good comparison because that's so far back, but the Winter Soldier is a good one. 36.9. This made 40. So it financially started off well. But remember how I mentioned earlier that the B- cinema score could potentially be problematic, because that might not bode so well for how good this movie does at the box office in the weeks to come. Because while it did outperform its projections, it debuted to $100 million domestically and 192 globally. That's a good number. I think that's a bit under what they were expecting globally, but it performed really, really well for a Valentine's Day, President's Day weekend movie with $100 million. So, for a 4-day opening that came in, above expectations, that's good news for a movie that a lot of people, or have mixed reactions to. Like, for me, like, one of the things, like I'll mention, these are some of the many reasons that Screen Rant put together. I thought they're good reasons. Some of these I've already talked about. But, like, throughout the whole movie, like, Harrison Ford's, Thunderbolt Ross is like, oh, I want to, do right by my daughter. Like, I want to get, make things right with her. And, like, they kept talking about it. He mentions it like a million times. And you can see, like, they've inserted, like, little things just to clarify for the average audience member, like, who is who. Because clearly, like, a lot of people haven't seen Thunderbolt Ross in a featured role since, the Incredible Hulk, and not a lot of people remember watching that movie either. So there's probably, like, test audiences were saying, like, who is his daughter? So, like, in the very beginning, he's like, have you heard from Betty, my daughter? Like, that little addition. I'm like, did you really need to say my daughter? But, like, I get it. Like, if somebody who hasn't seen those other movies, they'd be wondering, well, who is Betty? So there were things like that throughout the film, which I think they could have potentially gotten around if they had done something like what they did in The Incredible Hulk, which was like this montage at the very beginning where they kind of showed the events that led up to how, Hulk became the Hulk, and how Bruce Banner, became the Hulk, and then went on from there. So there were a few things like that they could have done differently. Enterprising saying kind of lends to the idea that Thunderbolts could be in a different universe. I don't know about that, but yes, Ron, I agree with you. The Bucky thing did not make any sense to me. Um, yeah, and it sounds like a lot like Man of Steel BVS type of box office performance. Could be. We haven't gone to the second weekend yet, but when we do, we'll see just how well or not well it does. Ron suggesting this movie should have only had the Serpent Society as the main villain and the leader, or anything tying to the Incredible Hulk was what weighed this movie down. I agree with you because it did. For a lot of people are saying the same thing. It felt like this was a Hulk sequel without the Hulk in it. Not to mention, they mentioned like Harrison Ford's President Ross mentions Betty Ross like a lot, like my daughter, my daughter, my daughter. Like they keep setting that up, but then the one thing I wish they did do was, because it was not believable to me that Captain America somehow talks down the Hulk. I mean, like, what connection do the two people have other than, a very professional, like, oh, I want you to restart the Avengers, like, work with me on this, Sam. Like, but he also, like, throws, like, oh, you're not Steve Rogers things at him. So I don't know how fond, Thunderbolt Ross is of this version of Captain America, of Sam Wilson. So it didn't make sense that he was the one who talked Red Hulk down at the end after the fight that almost killed him. One of the funniest lines in the movie is like, should have taken the serum. Bucky's full of shit. I'm like, yep. That was one of the I got a nice giggle out of that. But yeah, that fight shouldn't have ended with just like Sam Wilson talking him down. It didn't feel right. I felt like that was the moment they should have been like, oh, we need to bring in the big guns, kind of like in the theatrical cut of Justice League, which I prefer the Zack Snyder version of the movie. But in terms of what they could have done here, like, in that theatrical version, they were like, oh, bring in the big guns, or like Alfred bring in the big guns, and then, Lois Lane pulls up and saves Superman from basically killing Batman. They should have had Betty Ross come in that scene, not come in afterward in the raft. I was like, that felt like a wasted, opportunity, because they've been setting that up the whole movie. They were in, the rose, not the roses. What are the flowers that line the street in DC? Why am I blanking out on this? But basically, like, they've been setting that up, that Harrison Ford's character is motivated by trying to make things right with his daughter the whole movie, and then when it comes time to talk him down, like, they don't bring her out to do that. But instead, at the end of the raft, like, which I did appreciate the irony that he ends up being prisoned in the raft, where he once upon a time put Sam Wilson behind bars, and they kind of mention it as like, we seem to be on the opposite sides of these bars all the time. Like what do we have in common? And Sam was like, well, you did the right thing, and by giving up the presidency, which looks like the MCU has gone through like 3 presidents in the past 3 years. So because obviously the president from Secret Invasion wasn't around, or he may have lost the election to President Ross, and now President Ross has given up the presidency. So who becomes the next president of the United States in the MCU? We shall see. Maybe Bucky will at this rate. He seems to be advancing up the political spectrum really fast. Cherry blossoms. Thank you, Ray J. Cherry blossoms. I'm like, he wanted like, let's go for a walk with the cherry blossoms. Let's go see the cherry blossoms. Like, I want to do this for my daughter. I want to do this. Let's make up, and let's do things right. And then we don't get it. And I don't know why that didn't happen. Maybe it was a reshoots thing, because like clearly the end of that fight when Captain America's talking Red Hulk down, you could tell he's standing in front of a green screen. It looked bad. It did look so obvious. It looked like that Justice League level of reshoots obvious. Not everything can be solved with a sappy speech, Barry. Exactly. I always think it's very tricky to end a fight sequence with like, a sense of clemency, like where somebody talks the bad guy down. It only works well if you have really set that up properly. And then set it up so that Betty was the one who could have shown up and been like, Dad, I want you to stop. Just listen to me. Don't do this. Like that, she could get through to a Hulk, to the person inside the Hulk, to her dad. But like Captain America, Sam Wilson, I mean, he was a counselor, sure, but the dude should have practically been dead after all the hits he took from Red Hulk. Because I don't know, I'm like, he may not have taken the serum, but he sure as hell felt superhuman in this movie. The amount of beating that, Captain America takes and still keeps walking. Of course, they, it's like, oh yeah, Kevlar lining. I'm like, great. Kevlar lining would not protect you from like getting stabbed with a dagger. It's going to protect you from a bullet. Kevlar is not meant to protect you from like getting stabbed all over. That's not how Kevlar works. But anyway, there's a lot of little details like that. We have to kind of like suspend your disbelief. So yeah, and you know what? Given how much Hulk involvement this movie had, or like Incredible Hulk related stories, I wouldn't have mind seeing Bruce Banner at some point. Like they mention him so often that like just bring him in at some point. Because I get it, Marvel does not want to do a Hulk movie because then Universal will distribute it and they won't get all the money from it. Like, and they just don't want to work with Universal. Like, Universal and Disney are not on the best terms. But yeah, come on now. I would have really appreciated. There's a lot of missing pieces in this movie because, like I said, it's jagged. I felt like in a lot of ways, this movie would have been better if they had added another like 15-20 minutes onto it rather than like making it under 2 hours. Like I appreciate that with the reshoots, like this movie was really short and it was short and sweet. And it's making good money because the audience is showing up because they're curious about this movie. But honestly, if this movie was another 15-20 minutes longer, maybe they could have made that time work for them, and maybe the leader could have been more fleshed out because the leader was so one note. Like there was his plan was dumb. I'm like, half of those conversations were confusing. Like every time he calls Red Hulk, like there's just a lot of stuff in this movie that didn't work for me. So yeah, the second weekend drop off will be key. And like John said, so we'll have to see just how much this movie makes in the second weekend because it's got competition. I mean, Paddington in Peru is good. I know there's not a lot of big movie coming out. Like The Monkey is not going to be a movie that's going to make $50 to $100 million. But look, the critics' reviews are split down the middle. The audience rating is not that high. And then, like I mentioned earlier, when you look at this article here, they're talking about a B- cinema score is, I believe, the worst score of any movie in the MCU. Like most MCU movies get like B+, A-, A. Like B- is the lowest score. That's like, DCEU levels of scores. So yeah, like Ray J said, Bruce Banner should have definitely been in this. And I'm not saying give him a huge part of the movie, just give him maybe a cameo or something to kind of like tie the pieces together. Because for a lot of people, like they're like, wait, Harrison Ford is playing Thunderbolt Ross? Because most people were like, wasn't that William Hurt? Like the Sokovia Accords? Like, is that the same guy? Like, I know they like showed some footage where he's got the mustache on, but you're still asking some people to make a leap. Like, I went to see this with Fiona and she was like, I didn't connect the dots quite so much. So, and she hasn't watched all these other MCU movies. So from a perspective of somebody who hasn't seen a lot of these other movies, I'm like, okay, so it's confusing. Clearly there's a lot of pieces here that rely on you having some prior knowledge of the MCU. Yeah, clearly they wanted to make a Hulk sequel without sharing money with Universal. Exactly. But hey, it's not the worst MCU movie. It's not the worst. Is it the worst Captain America movie? Yes, it is definitely the worst, but I feel like that's maybe the wrong way to say it. It's the least quality Captain America movie, but it's not the worst MCU movie. It's better than Eternals. It's definitely better than God, what was it's definitely better than Black Widow. Way better than Black Widow. I'm trying to think of like what other movies were really trash in the MCU. Better than Quantumania.
Eternals.
I said Eternals. Yes, it was way better than Eternals. Which again,
the Marvels.
The whole Celestial Mass is better than the Marvels. The whole Celestial Mass thing, you need to have watched the Eternals to know that thing even exists, because Marvel has barely acknowledged that in the time since. So I'm glad that they're acknowledging it here, and a lot of MCU fans are excited that it's finally being addressed and we're getting adamantium. But for those of us who haven't seen that movie, I'm like, it's like, what? There's this thing. What is this thing that's poking out in the middle of the ocean? There's a lot of pieces here that just felt like if you watch this movie, you would walk away with an uneven experience. But at the same time, they make this movie isolated enough that if you skip it, you won't miss much in the MCU. right? Because I'm sure the celestial mass will come up again in the future. Is big enough of a talking point. I mean, we're gonna get the X-Men, we're gonna get Wolverine, so adamantium is gonna get addressed. So if you're tying the adamantium, as a metal, as a mineral, whatever, to the celestial mass, then this, regardless of what happens in this movie, because at the end of the day, as far as the mechanics of the story and like what's going on, like which country controls adamantium or whatever, or the treaty that they're signing so that it's equitably distributed to the whole world, you don't need to know all of that to know that adamantium exists in the MCU. Most people are not going to care where it comes from, right? Like it's not on the same level as vibranium was. I even though they say it's the most versatile metal, and they do point out the fact that it's not controlled by an isolationist nation like Wakanda. So like, let's take it, let's make sure this is something that everybody in the world has access to. But overall, I would give it a 6 out of 10. So I still lean more on the positive side. Pacing was definitely an issue. You could feel that they had like taken this movie apart, put the pieces back together again, made a lot of small changes. This felt like, as somebody who has seen a lot of MCU movies, there was a lot of exposition here that wasn't necessarily needed, but it was probably needed for the average audience member who maybe doesn't remember all the MCU films they've seen, or maybe has skipped a lot of MCU movies. So they needed some of the extra context. But let's just say that extra context wasn't added in the best way possible. This movie was not as slick and as well made as those Russo brothers Captain America movies was. And while I'm not the biggest fan of Russo brothers' work outside of the MCU, I wish this movie was directed by the Russo brothers. I wish it was written by, the writers Marcus McFeely, or the two guys that wrote all of the movies that they worked on. Yeah. So thank you. Okay, John, I've had my say. If you guys want a longer review and go into more details, more spoilery stuff, let me know. I'm happy to do like a whole stream about it, and we can talk about it in more detail. All right, thank you, John. Thank you. And yes, I will say it's better than Love and Thunder TC24. I actually...
That's not saying much.
Actually, you know what? That might be a wash. That might actually be a wash. I take that back. I feel like Love and Thunder was maybe on even terms with this one. A lot of pitfalls. Not a great start to the year for Marvel, but they can quickly turn things around because Thunderbolts looks really good, and Fantastic Four looks pretty good so far. So, I mean, hey guys, let us know in the comments down below what you thought about it. That was my review. I'm sure you guys have seen other reviews. If you have and seen it yourself, obviously let us know what you thought about Captain America: Brave New World. I want to see more Sam Wilson as Captain America. Just give me a better movie. Give me a better movie. I hope this ends up being like the Iron Man 2 of this version of the character's franchise. So hit the like button, hit subscribe if you're new. We do movie reviews each and every week. Hit the notification bell. And if you guys are interested in a longer, even more spoilery full review, and we can go into even more of the details, let me know and I will do that for you guys here, and we can have a live show and we can do a back and forth. We'll do Q&A and all that. But yeah, let me know what you think, what you thought about Captain America: Brave New World down in the comments below. Right now, we're going to move on to what, of course, you guys are all here for, as always. We're going to talk about DC. So let's move on to another episode of DCU Daily. I, of course, am Dan, and we're here to talk about a lot of different things in the world of DC Comics, DC Cinema. To do that with me, of course, as always, I've got John. John, get off to your phone. What is going on?
Sorry, people keep fucking texting.
Are you ready to talk DC?
I'm ready to talk DC. That's why I put the fucking phone down. So, goddamn. Let's go. It's already 2 hours in. I want to fucking go to sleep. Come on.
All right. Okay, let's do this. Okay, so, of course, we were talking at the very top of the show. If you guys have been watching the whole show live, BAFTAs took place this past weekend. And at the BAFTAs, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, won for Best Documentary, directed by Ian Benhote and Peter Edegui. Of course, the movie is available to stream on Max. If you have Max available where you live, it might be on a different streaming service if you're not in the US. But it won for Best Documentary. It's not even nominated for Best Documentary at the Oscars, but it won for Best Documentary at the BAFTAs. Sean, what are your thoughts on this? Are you surprised? Do you think this is about time it's getting more recognition? What are your thoughts on that?
I think that's great. Like, it's a shame how it didn't fit into the Oscar category for whatever reason. So it's nice to see it still winning all these awards deserving. Because yeah, as I said, it's great, it's deserving, it should win all the awards. It was very well done, and it wasn't like sappy, it wasn't like, you know, it wasn't just like, oh, it took your, it's just it was a very well made documentary. So I'm glad it's getting all this stuff, and I hope it somehow gets more, where whatever awards shows that give it a chance, because God knows the fucking Oscars didn't, for whatever fucking reason, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that it wasn't even nominated at the Oscars. I don't even know if it made the short list. Like, that was the thing, right? Like, it got snubbed completely. But it's been nominated at a lot of the other award shows. Obviously, I think it won at the Saturn Awards, and then obviously now we know it won the BAFTAs. So, congratulations to Superman, the Christopher Reeve story, now officially the BAFTA winner in 2025 for Best Documentary. So, let's keep the ball rolling here. The next story, this is something that broke, it's a rumor. It broke on Friday. Since we weren't live on Friday, I wanted to touch upon it today. DC Studios is reportedly bringing, or at least thinking about bringing, Zatanna into the DCU. John, what are your thoughts on this? Before you say anything, I just want to point out this comes to us from one of the scoopers, My Time to Shine. So, I don't know how believable this is, but what are your thoughts on this? Like, about the veracity of the claim, but then also, if they were to bring Zatanna in, because this isn't the first time you've heard that this is something the DC Studios is thinking about. Do you think it would be a good idea? Where do you even think that she would fit into the picture of the DCU right now?
I think, I've had a lot of ideas in regards to Zatanna's role. Like, okay, let's say this is true. I don't think it's true. I think it's bullshit. But if it's true, she is a character that people have wanted to see for a lot of comic book fans have wanted to see for. She showed up in other stuff. She showed up in Smallville and a couple other things, all that stuff. Now, I genuinely believe, she's a great character with a lot of great things you can do with the character, because you can go like traditional superhero, you can go like really dark horror stuff, you can team her up with other characters, like lesser characters that could maybe get a spin-off, and like, or so, like, I know you could do Justice League Dark, that's kind of the easy thing, but like Swamp Thing could introduce her, or team her up with John Constantine, this universe's version. You can team her up with Deadman, her father Zatara. Like, you could do a whole bunch of stuff with this character, and like really show the fucking dark, like have like, I know even though really the DC version of Doctor Strange is Doctor Fate, because they're essentially like very similar characters. But like, if you want to do something Doctor Strange-esque and like, oh, have some female representation, then do it with Zatanna, because she's a great character. And so I don't think this is true, but I feel like they should introduce her like soon. Maybe not as her own project, but kind of like what they're doing with Lobo, because we know Lobo is going to get a spinoff. So introduce her in something small, maybe Swamp Thing, and then have her be in her own, like maybe a mention, maybe a cameo, nothing too major, just, and then give her a spinoff. I would like to see a TV show. I know maybe not a lot of people. I think that's like a good safe bet.
I mean, even Jeff Snyder hinted at this. This is like two scoopers talking about it. So I'm like, is it when one scooper talks about it, it's not enough, but maybe when two scoopers talk about it, is that more of a hint that it might be true?
I don't think so, but yeah, Justice League Dark, it's just like one of those things. Just keep it away from J.J. Abrams, and we should be fine. Like, I know Joseph Kahn had some really good ideas. Doug Liman's concept art was great. Guillermo del Toro's concept art was really good. Just give it like to a great director. I know this would never happen. Well, you know what? Like, I mean, Mike Flanagan is writing Clayface. He's not directing it. But like, if Clayface does well, and they're like, hey, Mike, if you want to come back and do another Justice League project, and you have some time in your fucking hectic schedule, maybe you want to do Justice League Dark. I think Mike Flynn, that could be like a really like push to towards something different, because like he hasn't really done like action. He just sticks to horror, which is fine. But I think like really, if you want to push, like if he wants to push his boundaries, then I would say, um, no, Jeff Snyder's a bitch. He's not even the leader. Um, so yeah, I think I think that would be really great. She's
Yeah.
a great character, and I think they need to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think she's the kind of character that the way you introduce her, like you said, as a cameo in another project, like maybe she shows up somewhere in Superman or Supergirl, or maybe in the Lantern show, or maybe in like, one of the comments in this post says Creature Commando season 2. And then you go from there. You build her up from there. You get, have her make a few appearances before you give her her own project, because Zatanna has like a cult following almost, kind of like Moon Knight did for the MCU, but that doesn't necessarily mean you give her her own thing straight away. Maybe you build her up and then give, if the audience is receptive, they like the way the character is being portrayed, then maybe from there you go on and give her a TV show or a movie to work with. But I wouldn't necessarily straight out the gates give her her own movie unless you have a really, really strong script and somebody like, Ana Noguera pitching Supergirl, and James Gunn was like, this is amazing. We love it so much. We're going to actually greenlight this right away, even though that wasn't originally the plan. So I hope that maybe, like a soft launch of the character is the way to go about it. And then in the comic or in the animated series, Enterprising saying Bruce Wayne learned how to be an escape artist from her father Zatara. Yeah, I mean we could maybe, if we do get like a movie or a TV show, you can start introducing some of those secondary characters for Zatanna as well. The Watcher saying, you guys remember Gunn saying there's one scooper out there that's really too dang good. We don't know which one he's talking about. I feel like Jeff Snyder does get things right. How often it's been a little hard to trust of late. I think Jeff Snyder was the one who said like, this one actor is gonna be Jon Stewart, and then the next day we found out that Aaron Pierre was gonna be Jon Stewart. So he's had his misses, and sometimes they're pretty bad. Yeah, maybe he is talking about somebody specific. We just don't know who that is. And I don't know if this rumor, I'm just saying, if two scoopers are saying the same thing, maybe that's gives it a little more credibility than if just one of them was throwing out bullshit. But speaking of Jeff Snyder, something else that he recently reported on was that James Mangold is currently more passionate about Swamp Thing than he is about his Star Wars movie. And then he's looking to decide on his next project in basically the next couple of weeks. And given that right now he's leaning more Swamp Thing, he might end up basically working on Swamp Thing before he works on the Star Wars movie, which, by the way, he said it that they're trying to go into production with it in December of this year. So I'm like, we have no idea if there's even a script in place for Swamp Thing, whereas we know there's a script being written for Star Wars. So from a purely a production standpoint, even if he is more, in love with the idea of a Swamp Thing movie, I'm like, at least we know that Star Wars is scheduled to start filming this year. I mean, yes, every Star Wars movie's, supposedly in production at some point before it gets taken off the schedule. But John, do you think there's a chance that James Mangold might do the Swamp Thing movie first? Or do you just think that, he's too far along with the Star Wars movie? He's going to do that first before he even thinks about writing a script for Swamp Thing?
I think Dawn of the Jedi, which is what his movie is going to take priority. And the reason I say that is for one major thing. It's safer. Now, I know Star Wars hasn't had a movie since Rise of Skywalker, yes, but Star Wars is much more active in its continuity right now. He's worked with Disney before with Dial of Destiny, even though that didn't do very well. He's still, I feel like he has this more of a safety net with Star Wars. So I feel like he's going to do Star Wars first because, but however, those are all the like pros for him. The con is there hasn't been a Star Wars movie since Rise of Skywalker, right? That was like 2019,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
That was pre-COVID.
You're right.
So
was there another Star Wars movies?
I don't think so.
No, you're right. You're right.
So
Holy cow, that's a long time ago.
that's almost 6 years. But I know. Okay, so here's the thing. I know it's the easy thing. Like we all hate Star Wars. Star Wars is in a shit place right now. But we all hate Kathleen Kennedy. Yes, 100%. But I'm looking at it through James Mangold's eyes. Now he's like, okay, here's what I have. This universe, this new continuity. Yes, these characters have been around since fucking like the 20s. I understand that. Like, if we're talking about this continuity and this new leadership, it's only been around since 2022, 2023, couple of years. It's less safe. It's more risky. Yes, it's a character that that some people know, that he's gotten some TV shows, got some movies, but it's still not entirely safe because he's not like directing a Batman movie. He's directing Swamp Thing. So he's a weirder niche character. Yes, more popular.
He was directing a Batman movie.
Yes, I think it's not like the weirdest niche character. Like, he's not directing a Bullet Man movie, but it's still weirder than Superman, Batman, Spider-Man in terms of the trifecta of most popular superheroes. And so there's that. James Gunn hasn't been a leader for a while, hasn't been a leader for a long time. The continuity movie-wise has not started yet. So it's like there's too many cons for him to go to DC. Now, maybe that can go all away with one meeting. Like, maybe he meets with James Gunn, meets with Kathleen Kennedy. He's like, okay, what do I want more? Let's go with this. So I'm just looking at it from like a business point of view. I know he wants to do that, but like, he'll have complete control. But he's worked with, and Disney let him do essentially whatever he wanted with Dial of Destiny. So that's safer. He's worked under Kathleen Kennedy before. He's worked under, the Disney banner, under a different, he's worked under Lucasfilm. So I feel like for him, I bet he's thinking that's the safer option than DC. I could be talking bullshit, but this is Jeff Snyder we're talking about. The man is never right, except for like 1 out of 100 times. So, I don't totally see this, and I'm just trying to see from Mangold's point of view, what do I want to do? I want to go with the safer option, someone who I've worked with before, even if it didn't result in the greatest of things. So obviously we'll see. There's a whole bunch of discussion there. You can go either way, have these arguments for this one, have these arguments. There's some pros for this, some pros for that, some cons for this, some cons for that. So I think there's a lot to discuss. I don't know if we have enough time to do that, but there is, all of that.
Yeah. I mean, the Watcher saying, from what I'm told, Star Wars is in complete disarray behind the scenes. Let's just say that the current Wizard might be putting in any more shows. Okay. Well, yeah, I mean, there was that report that Star Wars is in a really bad place behind. Like, nobody really knows what's going on. Everybody's doing their own thing. It's all siloed off. So, yeah, I mean, there might be appeal to the idea that, Swamp Thing is a fresh, like, cinematic universe, clean slate. Ray J saying, I don't know if it's safe for most directors. I would feel wouldn't touch Star Wars with a pole or with a 10-foot pole due to all the development failures and embarrassing, news releases that we have had in recent years. That's true. That's true. I get your point, John, that it might be a safer bet because he's worked with Lucasfilm before, so he knows it's more of a known commodity for him. But I can say that easily Swamp Thing might just be like an easier bet for him too, because I bet you it's also going to be a much smaller movie in terms of the budget and everything. So he could probably be like, I'm gonna maybe take a year or so and work on that, and then I can always go back to Star Wars because that's going to be a movie that will have a lot more pressure to succeed. So yeah, we'll see which way he goes. We hope that he continues to stick around for Swamp Thing, regardless of whether he ends up doing the Star Wars movie or not. But you know what? We are getting a Superman movie, and the All-Star Game was also happening this weekend for the NBA. So for NBA All-Star Weekend, because it's on TNT is part of Warner Bros. Discovery, which is also where DC Studios is. They took an opportunity to do this like nice little promotional plug where you had David Corenswet and James Gunn join up with Shaq and talk about like the new Superman suit, but then also Shaq's like, why am I not Superman? But he also doesn't recognize David Corenswet as Superman. So there was a little bit of like humor to it. Superman meets Steel. What did you think about this promo, John?
I thought this was pretty funny. It was very cute. You know, um, I fucking wish we got this for the fucking Super Bowl.
I know, right?
This is
Yeah.
what we should have gotten instead of, this is the bowl I need or whatever the fuck. Like, don't get me wrong, I love Guy Gardner. I love he has the bowl cut. I love they're showing that. They're doubling down on it. But like, this would have been fucking great. Because it's like there is a connection there, even though the movie Steel with Shaq didn't have any connection to the Superman character because it was made before like the death of Super. It like made no sense. So, I think they should have fucking gone with that. It would have been so much better. But I mean, who fucking doesn't love Shaq? Like, bro's great. Like, it's amazing, and this was really funny. So.
I mean, all you guys in the chat love it. I enjoyed it. I think I particularly enjoyed it because we got a closer look at the suit itself, and I thought that was really interesting. I mean, they also put out a behind the scenes of it, of like all the practicing their lines, and of course, the amount of times that Shaq doesn't get his lines right. He's like, you gotta like, write this out for me, guys. And the behind the scenes was funny. Actually, I enjoyed the behind the scenes more than I enjoyed the actual promo, because the actual promo was like kind of like a little cringy on purpose kind of a comedy. So Snyder Bros losing their minds over this NBA ad. Yep. Steel is a movie for sure, says Rager 365. Yeah, look, the marketing.
In fact, I want to go
Superman
rewatch
getting
this
back
again.
on track.
I
This was fun.
Watch this
and
again.
I want to focus a little bit on the shots, the close-up shots of the suit that they showed, because obviously you start to see there's more texturing to the suit itself than just what we maybe see from afar. I like it. The boots have like the very vintage brown look to it. I know we have a lot of like,
Looks kind of orangey a little bit.
Yeah, when they were filming the movie, we were getting a lot of like shots from far away, so we were losing a lot of this detailed texturing. And I'm sure in the movie we'll get more of that because there'll be more closer shots. But even in the trailer, like there were a lot of like wide shots and like a lot of center framed, panning until like or like shots that were like on a gimbal or something. So we didn't get to see a lot of close-ups on the suit, or when we did, it was like in a dark scene, so you couldn't really see it. So I appreciate the detail. It's similar to like the kind of detail that we had on the Man of Steel suit. I still think the texturing on the Man of Steel suit is probably like the best texturing we've ever gotten, because like the reasoning behind it was like, everything was like grounded in the story of that version of Krypton. But nonetheless, I mean, I'm enjoying it. You could clearly see the bulges doing his thing there. They gotta make sure they put that on display. But the colors are nice. I don't know, John, if you still like the hue of blue that they're using, but because I know that was something for you that was still a bit of a concern. Jalen Harris saying, I think this might confirm the theory of more than one suit now. I don't know. I really don't know. I think the thing to me that really speaks against the idea of more than one suit is, as James Gunn has mentioned, the movie takes place over the course of a couple of days. So I know like you could still switch into a different suit through the movie over the course of a couple of days. Like Captain America 4, he switches suits like at least once or twice in that movie. So you could do it, but I don't know. I feel like there's gonna be the only suit in the movie, but I like
just
it.
The collar is what's fucking me up. Like one has like a notch and the other doesn't. So like that's the thing I'm looking at. Like I don't know.
The other thing I noticed on the trunks have the same texturing as the rest of the suit. So I'm like, if that was added on as an extra element, like they wouldn't be the same, right? But it feels like were the trunks part of the Kryptonian version of the suit? Or were they added on by Superman to just kind of like be more friendly to kids? I don't know. Like, I feel like that's.
I don't think they should mention the trunks. I think they just like they're just there, and then that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
The suit is definitely campier to the Man of Steel suit. I still feel like the Man of Steel suit for me was a little more slick. People have definitely put comparison photos out on the internet with like the two suits on a mannequin,
which isn't fair because we haven't gotten a good shot on screen of this suit yet.
I totally agree with you. It's not a fair comparison, but nonetheless, I mean, look, the suit looks nice. The cameo was fun. James Gunn posted it all over the internet on his Threads account.
I like the beard. He looks good with the beard.
He does look very different with the beard too. And then another closer look, you can clearly tell we have been arguing about the logo when the trailer came out and then the poster came out, that on the outer edge, the outline is the yellow, right? And then the blue is only maybe off when you look at it from a side. So you have the yellow, then you have the red, then you have the yellow again. So that's definitely something that we have kind of clarified at this point. The texturing, I mean, there's not a lot of, it's just like these little rivets. It's not like in the Superman one, there were like these, like the fleur-de-lis, all the little tiny fleur-de-lis in the Man of Steel suit. And then, like I said, like the texturing on the trunks are the same as the rest of the suits. So it looks like it's very well integrated. The boots look like they've, gotten some use out of them. So they're a little wrinkled, they've got a few folds in them. So you've got that. Now, James Gunn, of course, recently mentioned on a few occasions that this movie has less humor than some of his other movies. It's not as humorous. Maybe it'll be have a little more gravitas to it. That clearly the trailer showed us that as well. But as you can imagine, David Corenswet is under a lot of pressure playing Superman. So recently he commented on the idea, like, how has he handled the pressure of playing the superhero? And this is what he said: I focus on doing my best for the director, the crew, and my colleagues who have worked on at the top of their abilities for months or even years. If I do well for them, I think I've done everything possible. I think that's, again, a very simple way of saying I'm doing my very best to live up to the quality of work that everybody else has put into this movie, so I can just do my part in helping elevate the script, the story that we're trying to tell. And I'm like, that's about as well put as anybody could say it. Speaking of the Christopher Reeve story, I watched a Superman documentary recently, and I feel like the way David Corenswet talks about Superman is similar to the way Christopher Reeve used to talk about Superman, and also the way Henry Cavill talked about Superman. So that bodes well for him, I think, as the one who's carrying the torch for this new cinematic universe. Sean, what are your thoughts on his comments of how he's handled the pressure of playing Clark Kent?
Yeah, I think like it's a very vague answer of like, I'm just gonna do the best. I'm just gonna do what I need to do, and then that's it. And that's it. Well, I mean, it's hard to. By the way, speaking of enterprising, the trunks look a little long because sometimes, like when it's on a person and you're like moving around, sometimes it looks different. And remember, he does have the bulge to really lengthen those things out.
There's the shot right there. Now I'll zoom into this.
Okay, we don't need to. I mean, there's some length there that makes it look small. It's fine, but anyway, I think, yeah. I mean, we can't judge him yet. He could totally suck, so that's why I'm like, I don't think he will. I'm just saying he's a really good actor from what I've seen of him, and he definitely embodies that aspect. So yeah, I think this was a good answer. Like, going back to what I was originally saying, this was a good answer. It was a vague answer, but it was like good enough that's like, you know what? I'm just gonna do the job I need to do, enjoy it, and move on. And that's a good answer.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree with you. I think, again, it's well put. He's not trying to, say something that's over the top. He's keeping it simple, and it's playing Superman is gonna be daunting for anybody, really. It's one of the roles that you want in Hollywood. So yeah, hopefully the movie turns out to be as good as advertised. I'm sure we're gonna get another trailer soon, but in the meantime, Superman is not the only DC movie that is currently in the works and on the way. We are also, of course, getting a Clayface movie next year, September 11th, 2026. So recently there was a report, I believe we discussed it last week, that they had a couple of directors in mind. And this is a bit of an extension on that report. So I wanted to kind of quickly go over it again and just get your take on what they talked about in the Hollywood Reporter article, describing where the movie is at behind the scenes in terms of, getting a director boarded on for it. So the Clayface is described as a Hollywood horror story that follows a B-movie actor who injects himself with a substance to keep himself relevant, which feels very similar to the story of the Clayface in the animated series, the Batman the Animated Series from all those years ago. So in the article, they pointed out that James Watkins is expected to meet with DC Studios soon to kind of pitch his version of the story. J.A. Bayona, or like his vision for the script that they have. Then J.A. Bayona was eyed to direct originally, and then Jeff Wadlow was never in the mix. So they've
Which
kind of ruled
is
out a
good,
couple
'cause
of
he
names.
sucks.
But I mean, what are your thoughts on, again, the premise and the idea that James Watkins is looking to pitch his vision for the story that Mike Flanagan has written?
So initially I was like, okay, he's directed some stuff. Again, I have not seen Eden Lake, so I don't know. However, I looked because I'm like, I know I fucking have watched something else from this guy. And this is what has me excited specifically for James Watkins. Because the one movie he did not write for, he only directed. The only thing he's only directed was one movie. It was a horror movie. That was The Woman in Black, which was actually really fucking good. I thought that was an excellent movie, so that gives me some more hope because I didn't care for Speak No Evil, and I don't like the overly extreme aspects of Eden Lake. I haven't seen it. I can't judge the movie, but I just saw bits and pieces of that movie. I know the ending. I just like, that makes me too icky, even for a horror fan. So with that, maybe I'll watch it someday, but maybe to prepare for Clayface if he does, if this is true and they, agree to have him. But I feel like that even though it was only one movie, it gives me hope that James Watkins could do a good job for this if he's not writing, because he wrote Speak No Evil. So I mean, he didn't write it. He wrote an adaptation of the original story. So there is that. But I think blame Dan. I think I just think, like, I don't want to totally dismiss James Watkins because I know he's done good work in the past. I really liked Woman in Black, and Speak No Evil had some good aspects to it. But I don't want to totally throw out as long as Jeff Wadlow's out of the mix. Fuck that guy. I think J.A. Bayona would have been a much more interesting director to choose, but if he didn't want to do it, then yeah, exactly. Manos, we agree. That dude, like, I haven't seen any of his movies, but I've like
Hi, Manos,
watched
by the
like
way.
I remember I was going through the movie channels and I watched like 5 minutes of Fantasy Island. I'm like, what the fuck is this garbage? So, and then all my friends who watched Imaginary said it sucked. Not The Imaginary. Two different movies involving imaginary friends came out last year. Imaginary and The Imaginary. The Imaginary is great. Imaginary sucks donkey dicks. So, so I would recommend that movie, by the way. Fun fact. It's on Netflix.
Yeah.
Watch The Imaginary. Very good. It's animated.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Studio Ghibli. Very good. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
by the way, Jalen's question about, like, does
James
James Gunn have an ego for promoting the Superman movie? I don't understand the criticism. It's been part of the conversation. No, I mean, I think he's got every right to promote the movie. Every director does. I think it's more like, James Gunn is like peddling the movie everywhere and everything, but I'm like, it's his movie. It's a new cinematic universe.
His movie, and he's also the CEO, so he co-CEO, one of the co-CEOs.
He's the CEO of the studio. Like, it's like Kevin Feige talking about Daredevil Born Again, or like, talking about Captain America 4. I don't think it's a fair criticism. And yeah, I think you agree, John. But sorry, you were talking about Clayface. Go ahead. I mean,
but yeah, no, I that was pretty much it. I love how people were like, I personally joked, like, injecting himself with a substance to stay irrelevant, and so I'm like, oh, so the substance. But it's like, that's Clayface's origin. You know what it kind of reminds me of a little bit? How everyone lost their shit that Dread, the Carl Urban Dread movie, was a copy of The Raid, yet Dread went into production first, but it didn't come out until after The Raid. So everyone claimed that Dread was a ripoff, when in actuality, The Raid could be categorized as a ripoff of Dread. That kind of reminds me of this, because technically, well, first off, Clayface is a character that existed way before. He came out in the 40s, and the Clay version came out in the 60s or 70s. I think the 60s. So there was that. And then on top of the fact, Mike Flanagan wrote the script in 2021 and offered it, and they said no. So he had this script for 4 years, and now it's going to be 5 years when it finally comes out. I think I think it's gonna deal with like, oh, it's a ripoff of the stuff, and it's a ripoff of the substance, but it's with men, and they're gonna think it's like some sexist thing where it's like, oh, you gotta like rip off the woman's thing because I don't know, just like yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. The substance technically took from Clayface if we're going down that angle. Um, yeah, I don't blame Bayona for that at all. I feel like there was a lot of studio bullshit there that forced him to do dumb things with that movie. So, yeah.
I mean, do you think we're getting Basil Carlo? Like, this is the DCAU inspired story. So,
I don't know, because I mean, they already confirmed. I mean, they kind of confirmed that the Creature Commandos version is not dead. I mean, I didn't think he was gonna be dead. Like, you wouldn't kill off a major
but that also
character
doesn't
like Clay.
feel like what they're describing here as a story either, right?
No,
Like, that can't be one of the
and the
same.
thing is, they didn't. I don't believe, unless John Economos did. I don't think they mentioned.
I
his
think
alter
James
ego.
Gunn said that there's multiple versions of Clayface.
There's 6 or 7 of them at this point.
He implied that in the DCU there'll be multiple versions of
There'll be
Clayface.
multiple. So I imagine, since this is the B movie actor, I imagine this is going to be Basil Carlo.
Right.
But here's the thing: the original Basil Carlo version, he was essentially just Phantom of the Opera. That was the character. It was just a rip off of Phantom of the Opera, because Bob Kane rips off everything and doesn't fucking have an original idea for himself. So he just ripped off Phantom of the Opera and he did like 1 or 2 stories, and then he fucking yeeted him. And then they brought in Matt Hagen, who was like a treasure hunter, and they made him the Clay Monster. And then I think Payne was the third one, where he kind of wore this helmet and this weird suit. He was the third Clayface. And then I think Lady Clay was the 4th Clayface. And then they all combined, made the ultimate Clayface, and then Basil Carlo hijacked it and then combined it to everything. And that's when Basil Carlo became the Clay Monster rather than a guy in a mask. So I think, if I were to take a guess, that Matt Hagen or Payne, I think Preston Payne was his name, is probably the one we saw in Creature Commandos. And then this version is going to be, because I mean, it is the B movie actor, so it's going to be Basil Carlo. I guess that makes sense. But yeah, so that's my theory.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Like the Watcher saying, we'd be surprised to see at this point, with the description of what the story seems to be, that it wouldn't be Basil Carlo. But they can always go in a different direction. But we shall see which direction they go in with the movie. I mean, great ideas from all you guys. I mean, clearly this movie is being fast tracked in a way that a lot of those other projects like Waller maybe necessarily isn't, even though it's in the works. It just seems like it's further along than pretty much any other DC movie outside of obviously Supergirl and Superman, which one is done filming and it's about to come out in a few months. The other is in production. So yeah, it makes sense, because Clayface is the next movie after Supergirl. So I'm sure we'll talk about it more as the time, as we get a director in the fold, and then hopefully then, maybe we'll get a casting for Clayface himself, Basil Carlo or otherwise. But in the meantime, we know Robert Pattinson is, of course, the DC Batman as of right now. He's the only Batman, who's still, in the hot seat, because we don't have a DCU Batman, and of course the DCEU is behind us. So Robert Pattinson was recently, on the red carpet for Mickey 17, and he was shocked that his fan base is now a bunch of guys. He's like, it's cool, it's a new one for me, because of course he's used to having all the girls swooning over him from his Twilight days. So I suppose that's a new experience for him. I mean, what are your thoughts on that comment? It's obviously, with Batman, when you play Batman, a lot of dudes are going to start following you. So I'm sure he sees that on social media and stuff, but I'm not surprised. But yeah, I suppose he's like, it takes a bit of getting used to.
I mean, that's what happens when you're Batman. So like, yeah. It's just like, we appreciate what he has become now, and that's nice to see, because he's not just a pretty face, he's actually a really great actor. And even though I've heard some mixed things about Mickey 17, I'm still super stoked for it. I just really like Bong Joon-ho. I love R. Pats, love Steven Yeun, love Toni Collette, I like Mark Ruffalo. Good cast, excited for it, and I'm cautiously optimistic about Batman Part 2.
Yep. Yeah, and then you know what? He was also asked about like what is the story for the Batman 2? When is it actually going to film? Of course, he said it's going to be a while, but they're hoping to start filming towards the end of this year. But then he's specifically addressing the story. He said that, Matt Reeves is a very careful writer, but I finally know now what it's about, and it's very cool, and I'm very excited. We kind of talked about these comments last week, but again, one more person saying that Matt Reeves is essentially, very careful writer. Another way to say he takes his time. We're not surprised by it at this point. I still have my sign up on my computer. It's kind of hidden by some other things. But let me move. There we go. Justice for Batman. So come on, Matt Reeves, get your shit together. His goal is to get this filming this year, and everybody keeps saying like, we're trying to do it. But I'm like, it shouldn't be this hard. But, another person, I mean, the person, Robert Pattinson confirming that, yeah, Matt Reeves takes his time.
No shit.
Matt Reeves takes his time. But yeah, it's enterprising. Pattinson definitely broke the stigma on his career. Like he did not want to get typecast after doing, the Twilight series and Daniel Radcliffe, but even more so than that, because Robert Pattinson is now an A-list actor, and he's of course in the Odyssey this year, which is filming. So Tom Holland goes from filming the Odyssey to filming Spider-Man 4. I hope that Robert Pattinson goes from promoting Mickey 17 to filming the Odyssey to then filming the Batman 2. He's already in the gym working out for it. I just hope that we're getting the movie at some point by its release date. I don't want another delay for it. So Ron saying, I'm telling you, this movie is on hold. If Superman does well, the Batman 2 will be scrapped. No, I just don't believe that. I just don't believe it. I think the Batman 2 is happening regardless. There's just, it's, how mad people will be if they did that? Like, that's just, I hope you were kidding, because I'm like, there's no way that is what's happening. But I mean, John, are you surprised that, Robert Pattinson is saying Matt Reeves is a very careful writer? But I guess at least he now knows the story and he thinks it's very cool and that he's very excited for it.
Yeah, I know. This is, careful, slow, unbearably slow, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, I think that's very cool. I think it's very cool. I'm glad Robert Pats thinks it's very cool. Yeah. So,
Yep. Our Pats is our Batman. He's the only Batman.
Now
right now. We went from having like 4 live action to just 1.
It's tomorrow. Remember when you said you wanted this to be half an hour? Good times.
I never said that, but anyway, there was this nice post from Screen Rant listing out a bunch of. I think we have gone through half of these at least in our fan castings for Batman. Jensen Ackles,
Henry Cavill.
Jensen Ackles, Alan Ritson come up all the time, but there are a few. And Jake Gyllenhaal obviously also has come up, but John Hamm, Aaron Taylor Johnson. Ben Barnes, Oliver Jackson Cohen, Theo James might be a good one. And Henry Cavill is definitely would be out of left field. But it would probably bring in a lot of the fans who were the fans of this DCEU.
We got to break it down now. Anyway, so in terms of all these, I think Jensen Ackles, I've said this before, I think he could be a really good Batman. I don't think he could be a good Bruce Wayne. I know he's voiced the character, but that's different from playing him live action. He just has too gruff of a face. Like, I know he was like the sexy guy, like when he was on Supernatural and prior to that, but like, it's just like in terms of like that, I just like he has he has the good hardened face for Batman, but you gotta have those like charming good looks for Bruce Wayne. And I don't think he's like charming. And so I don't think he could do that well. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think I will get to that soon. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think he could do both okay. I think he could do an okay Batman and an okay Bruce. I feel like he could definitely do a better Bruce Wayne than Batman. I think he's like more charming and charismatic. But yes, I agree. Aaron Taylor Johnson, I think, would be better as James Bond. Keep the Americans. We finally got an American Superman again. Let's get an American Batman again. John Hamm, I think he could do Bruce Wayne really well. I don't think he could do a good Bat. And the thing is, I think people want him because he's so big and broad. But he already said no to Lanterns.
Yeah.
I think he was
I also
like
think he's a little too old to be playing
he's
the
too
version
old.
of
He's like
Batman
in
they
his
want to start
50s.
off with.
So I don't
Yeah.
think they should do that. Jake Gyllenhaal is my favorite. I think he could do. He is kind of reminds me of Jensen Ackles. He is that gruff face, but I feel like if he shaved and you give him like a good, like I think he could definitely. That's true. But we need the acting ability. We need the personality. We need.
He's
And
got the acting ability. I just don't know if he's the right fit for the profile of
I don't think
Batman
he's the
right
right fit.
now. Yeah.
I think both Jake Gyllenhaal and Ben Barnes are really good choices. I wouldn't mind seeing Ben Barnes. I know he was Jigsaw. I don't know if they're gonna try and fucking resurrect
We're
him
gonna get to
again.
Brandon in a second, but good on you.
But Jake Gyllenhaal, I think he could do a really good Batman. I think he could do a really good Bruce Wayne. I think, but it's just he might be a little bit too A-list, but we'll see who they actually want. Ben Barnes, as I said, I think he could. I think he needs to bulk up a little bit more because I wouldn't say he's skinny, but he's more athletically toned, and I think they want a bigger Batman. So I think Ben Barnes
Ben
could do it.
Affleck was a great That dude was ripped. Like he couldn't put his hands down. It was like this. He was walking around like because all the muscle groups. He had muscles in places most people don't know their muscles exist. So yeah, I'm like, Ben Affleck was well cast for the role, regardless of what the movies were like.
Yeah, I think so. Oliver Jackson Cohen, he could probably do a good job. I just don't personally see it. Same with Theo James. It's different, and I respect that, but I will see. Like the thing is, he's kind of still in my mind a little bit too much of a pretty boy. But I'm sure like he is going to be in the Monkey, so we'll see how he acts there. But I agree. I think you should probably get someone a little bit more unknown, but it is Batman and they got to get a big star. So all that. Alan Richardson, I've said my piece on that. Henry Cavill, no way. He's done. He's
Dude,
out.
It would be such a headline creating move though if Henry Cavill all of a sudden goes from being Superman to Batman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he even said
put a smile
Geralt is
on my
more
face.
Batman than Superman.
Yeah.
So you know he could probably do it, but
yeah. Well, I mean, these are good picks. I wouldn't mind seeing Jake Gyllenhaal. I think that to me, I agree with Ron, is probably the best pick out of these ones here on screen. But speaking of the DCU Batman, Damian Wayne is also going to be featured for the first time in a live action movie in the DCU. So according to a recent set of stories in the Batman and Robin comics, so the brand new Batman and Robin issue number 18.
I was gonna I fucking missed that initial thing, and I'm like, wait, what? And then I'm like, oh, it's for the comics. I was like,
it's in the comics.
There we
It
go.
seems like the latest issue is hinting that Damian Wayne is finally ready to retire as the current version of Robin. Like he's no longer gonna be like the ongoing canon version of Robin. Like, and somebody else potentially is going to take over the sidekick role for Batman. I mean, do you think it's about due time that they move on from Damian Wayne as the official Robin in the comics?
Well, it depends how long were other, like, I mean, Dick Grayson lasted for fucking 40 years before he retired as the Robin. But then Jason Todd was like, what? Like 6 years, and then he fucking got yeeted. Tim Drake, I think here's the thing, he was Robin for a while, pretty much throughout like the 80s and most of the 90s. But then Stephanie Brown came in for like 2 seconds and then she got killed. But then it got retconned that she was never Robin. So I think Tim Drake was Robin until the New 52, if I remember correctly. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind seeing Stephanie Brown. Don't do Carrie Kelly because that's what fucking Zack Snyder wanted to keep keep Dark Knight Returns out of this shit. Please, for the love of God. Stephanie Brown, I wouldn't mind seeing as Robin, but she was like a nothing Robin. She was there for like 2 seconds and then retconned. So keep her as Spoiler or Batgirl, and that's it. Okay, yeah,
I wouldn't mind seeing that run solo for a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, like kind of like
Batman.
what Scott Snyder did in the New 52, where he was kind of a lone wolf kind of thing, which I don't love, but I can understand like waiting. I mean, you already have like Duke Thomas, who's essentially Diet Robin, but like, oh, it's different because he has powers. He's Robin. He's fucking Robin. They just don't want to call him Robin, so it's whatever. But yeah, I think he's been Robin since technically 2011, even with all that shit, and that's about 12 years. So yeah, maybe he needs to move on. We'll see, but yeah,
Yeah.
whatever. Get a new guy in there.
Yeah. Looks like he's found his own calling. That's not being, a crime fighting superhero anymore. So yeah, Caleb saying Duke Thomas is Walmart Robin. There you go. All right. Well, now we have to move on to what is our main story on DCU Daily today. Brendan Sklenar or Sklenar? Brendan
Sklenar.
Sklenar. There we go. Brendan Sklenar recently said that The Dark Knight, Batman, would be a dream role for him. He was being interviewed by the playlist, and of course he was, talking about a number of different things. There are rumors that he's potentially going to play Nova in the MCU. But and he has admitted, to potentially having meetings with Marvel coming up. But then he also mentioned that the Batman would be a dream role for him. So I figured let's talk about it. Would you want to see potentially Brendan Sklenar as Batman? I mean, this is what he said after talking about the Nova casting rumors. He said, "I've seen a bunch of fan casting for this Batman thing, The Brave and the Bold, and that's very interesting to me. I love Batman. That would be a dream for sure, but we'll see what happens. I'm built for it." So he seems to think that he's already got the physique and everything. And then his final sentiment on it gave the playlist interviewer the impression that either role, whether it's Nova or Batman, would be a good fit for him. And so this is what Brendan said: it would have to be the right thing at the right time. I think in a lot of ways that's true for many castings, that it has to be the right place and the right time. Because you can get like 5 different actors to play the same role and they'll all do it differently. It's just a matter of which one fits for the moment and the type of character portrayal you're looking for. What are your thoughts on potentially Brendan Sklenar taking on the role of Batman in the DCU?
I think I haven't seen a ton from him. I've seen a couple things. He's going to be in the upcoming Drop movie, which looks like a lot of fun. So we'll see. But I know, like, all you guys have said, "Oh my God, he would be the greatest Batman ever." So I don't know. I can't judge, but you guys have some good takes, so I'll take your word for it. But he could be a good choice from what little I've seen of him in. From what I remember, like the most I've gotten from him now is like the trailers for Drop, and he seems rather charming. I don't know how he is like. He could probably pull off Bruce Wayne. I don't know how he would do Batman, but yeah, I think that could be really cool for him, and I'm sure he could be a good choice. And he's not like totally incredibly well known. He's in the age range. He could work.
I mean, I think he's got the acting chops. He's got the looks. Maybe lose a mustache, but like, other than that, I think it could be a good Batman. I'm a little concerned though. Can you have him play off like being the father of like a teenage
exactly
child, like Damian Wayne? Like that's to me is the thing that is a little harder to believe. Like, is that something that they can pull off? He looks like Bruce Wayne according to Ron. And then Jalen saying I can see him as Batman, and the Watcher was pointing out like that Nova is one of the better characters in the MCU or in Marvel, but that they haven't brought in. So if they were to nab him, obviously, then that potentially takes him off the board, because like you wouldn't want to be playing such a significant character, in DC, which obviously, Batman is one of the biggest characters in all of comics, and then at the same time be playing somebody like Nova over in Marvel, who might have a pretty significant role in the coming phases of the MCU. So yeah, he has to probably make a pick with one or the other. It seems like you might have already got some stuff lined up with Marvel, at least meetings, so that could lead to something. We don't know if there's been any official contact or consideration given to him as Batman. I think that obviously one of the big things for James Gunn is the script isn't done yet. And even though he has a director attached, I'm sure the casting process hasn't started yet because they don't quite have a final version of the script, so they don't know exactly what they're looking for. They have a general idea, but exactly what they want in terms of this version of Batman. So when we get to that point, will Brendan Sklenar still be available, or will he be tied up with the MCU or another franchise? That's going to be the key. Like he said, it has to be at the right place at the right time. So yeah, and then the Man of Time saying if DC is looking for a new star that will be really popular really soon, Sklenar is the best choice, but knowing WB, they'll just focus on Robert Pattinson. That's a good point. getting like an up and coming rising star who you then, you know, turn into a global megastar using, you know, a platform like Batman, this could work really well. This could potentially be, you know, like when they had Batman Forever. Why am I forgetting his name?
Val
right now?
Kilmer.
Val Kilmer. Sorry, having a bad time, hard time with names today. This could be a similar to that, right? Like bringing in Val Kilmer to do that, like where he was in his career at the time, sort of like not still at the peak but rising. Maybe Val Kilmer was a little more popular at the time, but I'm just saying, like, you know, that feels like
I think he was like at his peak or past his
Yeah.
peak, because he kind of.
So
I would say Batman Forever might have killed his career. So, you know,
fair enough.
what was he in after that? Like, because Tombstone came out like this,
mm,
like a couple years beforehand. So he was in like this. What was it? The Priest, the Saint, whatever the fuck it was called.
I
he
mean,
was
it's
in
also
that.
so maybe a better comparison would be like, you know, potentially getting like a Glenn Powell. Like, you know, he's still on the up and up. In fact,
I
Glenn
would say,
Powell
you
and
know
Brendan
what?
Sklenar kind of look
Ironically,
similar. So,
you know what would be George Clooney. Like, think about it. George Clooney, yeah, he was only like a TV star at the time. He had ER,
you're right.
but then he was in
Yes.
Batman and Robin, and then his career kind of ironically took off because it showed he could be a leading man. I mean, he was a nepo baby, yes, but it showed he could be a star. So, you know, yes, the movie was bad, but you know, a couple years later, you know, what was 4 years later, he did Ocean's 11, which you know, catapulted that shit. So, and then he
Yep.
became a huge fucking star. So, yeah.
Classic daddy Batman incoming. The Watchers say. I mean, look, Brendan Sklenar said he certainly had the build for it, so he's kind of voted himself like, look, I've got the physique, I can pull off like the physicality of the role. I think he's got the acting chops. It's just like he said, it's gonna be at the right place at the right time. It's gonna be the right fit for what they're looking for. But yeah, Bad Bulge coming soon. Oh, you know, I'm sure there will be one. There always is. But it's easier to hide when your trunks are black versus when they're red. So, Brendan Sklenar potentially putting his name in the hat of, like, I mean, the hat that already has like 10 other names that we were looked at earlier, or at least, you know, what fan castings have been. Alan Ritchson is one of the other people who has outwardly said he would love to play it. He's gonna shout it off the rooftops. He wants to be Batman. So now we've got at least, you know, 3, maybe 4, when you count maybe Jake Gyllenhaal, who's expressed interest and he was auditioned for the role in the past, as well as Glenn Powell. So those aren't bad picks. Those are not bad picks at all. It's just gonna be, you know, a matter of like which one of these actors can pull off being like, you know, a Batman who has like a teenage son. So that to me is gonna be. I mean, they have to play like somebody. Whoever this Batman is has to be in their 40s, right? It's kind of like what Ben Affleck's Batman was when they first brought him in. So, yep. The Watcher saying Marvel's gonna have 2 Wolverines till he's 90, much like DC's gonna have 2 Batman. I don't know if they're gonna have 2 Wolverines unless they're gonna keep him around. Yeah. I mean, I guess you could have a 35-ish Batman, like, and still have a teenage son, so that could work. It doesn't have to be in his 40s.
Yeah.
If you're going for the older 40s, then John Hamm probably works.
I think you could pull it off with like mid to late 30s if you want to go for a younger teenager, like 14, like if you want to go for like prepubescent, which is when he was introduced, then
Right.
fine. I feel like as long as he's at least like 36, I think that's good, because that's like Damian Wayne can be 18, and I think and then anything below that would be fine.
Yeah.
I do hope that they take reference from the original Son of the Demon story, and not, you know, Grant Morrison's run, because it was like, ooh, that was awkward. Because he just straight up, they misremembered.
Pedro
like,
Pascal is
yeah,
busy with
Batman totally got raped,
Fantastic
didn't he?
Four.
No, Grant Morrison, he didn't get fucking raped. You're just a dumbass and you didn't do research. So yeah, good times.
Yep. By the way, Pacerland saying Pedro. Nobody, as long as it's not Pedro Pascal, like anybody else. But I'm like, Pedro Pascal is busy being Mr. Fantastic. I do not think he's gonna be playing Batman anytime soon. But Brendan Sklenar could be a good pick. I think that would be a great pick potentially if the script calls for it, and that's what they ended up going with. So let us know in the comments down below what you think, guys. If you're not watching live, would you want to have Brendan Sklenar? Do you have another name that we didn't discuss on today's episode of DCU Daily that you'd like to suggest? If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're new, because we do DCU Daily 5 days a week. Of course, once a week we do movie reviews as well. With the Also Curious, we also have Marvel news, of course, MCU Weekly. Liz will be back later this week to talk about that. Hit the notification bell so you know when we go live. But of course, we're not done yet. As always, we like to finish the show off with a look ahead to the movie that is coming out later in the week. And of course, this week, the big movie is going to be The Monkey. It's not necessarily the biggest movie, but it is, a horror film that looks pretty good based on the trailer, and it's going to lead the week. It's going to be like the biggest new movie that comes out this week. We want to talk about it because John is going to be excited to go see it. So John, does this movie look good to you?
It looks fucking great. I'm so stoked. Like, fucking Osgood Perkins, bro, is releasing 3 movies in a year and a half. Like, he, like, after like not doing anything for a couple of years, after I think Gretel and Hansel came out in 2020. So I think by the way, this is a good reference to the movie. Go back. That's a good reference to the movie Hardcore with George C. Scott, by the way, which it's mimicking that poster. So I think he did nothing for 4 years, and now he's doing everything like 3 years in a row. And the next movie he's doing is Keeper. It's got Tatiana Maslany in it. That sounds really good. That's coming out in October, I think, this year. But I'm stoked for it. It's got a great director, one of my favorite directors working today. I think it genuinely looks good. James Wan, he's produced a lot of crap, but I think he's also produced a lot of great stuff as well. And then Stephen King, again, it's hit or miss, but when you have someone that is as good as Osgood Perkins, I think we're gonna get something in for a treat. And this looks very different from his other movies, where it's like goes in for more like 80s grindhouse kind of feel. So I really like that. And fun fact, by the way, the reason that the monkey has a drum and not the classic cymbals is because of Disney, because they trademarked the cymbals monkey for Toy Story 3. So, and it's still trademarked by them, so they can't use it. So they had to use the drum, which I will say works because it makes it like almost less like real in a way, because it's like this like demonic kind of monkey thing. It's not even like the official toy, like the symbol toy. It's a knockoff toy with the drum. Yeah. Honestly, I feel like that kind of works for with what the world they're setting up. So I'm really stoked for it. I'm really excited. I love Osgood Perkins. I think The Blackcoat's Daughter, his first movie, was unabashedly excellent. I think I'm the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House is one of the greatest and most underrated horror movies this century. Gretel and Hansel was good, but it felt like a lesser version of The Witch, unfortunately. I feel like Osgood Perkins saw The Witch and he's like, I can do that, and then failed. It had a lot of really good ideas, and it did have some intriguing aspects to it, but it was very slow and very boring. Long Legs, was my favorite movie of last year, and this just looks like a ton of fun, and it looks like he's going out of his wheelhouse for that. And he, I think he's proven, like, yeah, Gretel and Hansel wasn't great, but like I think he's 3 for 4 at this point, and he might be 4 for 5 at this point. So, but even then, Gretel and Hansel wasn't a bad movie. It was just not as great as his other movies. So I'm stuck for him. God, he looks so much like his dad. It's fucking insane. He looks like his fucking clone. It's crazy, but just as as much talent. I mean, Anthony Perkins did direct a couple movies, so but I think it's safe to say that his son is the better director. But yeah, super stoked for this. This looks like like fun, but it looked like it could be creepy as hell in just the right ways. And
I mean, it's
I'm
already
happy for it.
it's got a good it's got a few verified audience ratings, not enough to give it a score yet, but the critics 48 reviews as of today, with 85% on Rotten Tomatoes, so largely positive. It's being received really well. The consensus so far seems to be fiendishly clever with some unforgettably gory set pieces. The monkey reaffirms director Osgood Perkins' horror bona fides while revealing he also has a surprising, albeit sick, sense of humor. I'm very interested in seeing what's Theo James is like in this movie. I feel like this is really out of his wheelhouse too. So I want to see what he can do. And obviously we were talking about him earlier as potentially a candidate for Batman. But yeah, Theo James has been doing well. He was in the Gentleman series on Netflix. He seems to be diversifying his portfolio of work. So hopefully this will be another good project on his resume, as long as the movie is good and his performance is good. But maybe he'll be a standout. Caleb saying Hansel and Gretel wasn't awful. It wasn't awful, he said. The Watcher saying, when I see this monkey, all I think about is Toy Story 3. You want to get out of daycare? Get rid of that monkey. Yeah. I'm sure the comparisons aren't, lost on a lot of people. Like John said, there was a connection there. So, but we'll be talking about the movie later this week. John is going to go see it. Maybe Liz will also see it, so we'll review it. Liz will be on the show with us on Friday, but until then, we'll be here with you for DCU Daily tomorrow, the day after, and the day after that. So be sure to come back and join us. Of course, as always, hit the like button if you haven't already. We see that there's more of you watching than there are likes, so please do hit the like button on your way out. Thanks for stopping by live and being engaged with us in the live chat. We appreciate that. As always, it is a community and we are hoping to keep growing. We have new people in the chat every day, so we appreciate you guys. And of course, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit the notification bell if you have not. We will be with you again, back with you, and not too long from now, but because it's already the next day. John's internet seems to have died on him, so I guess he's gone for the night. But I'll sign off here. So you'll be back tomorrow with another episode of DCU Daily. Until then, go out there, watch a movie, watch it at home. And then, come back and talk to us about it. We'll be back with more DC news tomorrow. And until then, good night, goodbye, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thanks for stopping by. Hit the like button. We'll see you next time. Another episode of Oh So Curious Times DCU Daily.